great look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, yeah, it's a great trailer, and obviously excited for the movie.
I don't think this trailer is as good as the first trailer, but that's because I think that the first trailer for Wonder Woman is the perfect movie trailer ever made. So, which sounds a little hyperbolic, but I think it's really good. I think the music's really good. I think everything about that first trailer is just like spot on. It reveals essentially nothing about the plot. You just know that for some reason, her boyfriend's back to life.
Steve Trevor.
Well,
Steve
yeah,
Trevor.
that's kind of the only thing we learn here of the plot, right? Is that Maxwell Lord has some sort of ability to
Like grant
or
wishes.
something.
Right, he's a genie. Yeah, that's a theory I've heard kind of like around the internet, is that like his whole like embrace the American dream thing is like some ability that he has to like literally grant wishes in some kind of weird way, maybe like a monkey's paw type way.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how Steve Trevor comes back, but then also how Kristen Wiig turns into Cheetah, right? And that kind of outlined in this trailer where she's like saying like she's used to being like overlooked and not seen, and she wants to be like, I think she says apex predator, which is pretty cool. But there's also some flashbacks to like Themyscira, and like they called it the Themysciran Olympics, which if that's what they call it in the movie is pretty badass. So I'm looking forward to that too. The movie just looks great. It's been done for so long, and I've been wanting to see it for literally like 2 years. Like I've been waiting.
They're sticking to their guns by like maintaining
only in theaters. Yeah,
they're just gonna wait. They're not gonna say this month or that month. They're just gonna 2021. They're pretty confident it'll happen then, but no real month or anything like that yet.
Okay, so what else? There was the Multiverse 101, I think it was called.
Right.
What was that all about?
Cool because it's the first time we get to see Walter Hamada, who's like the president of DC.
DC Films.
Right.
Yeah.
And recently,
is that a new division or just a job title?
Probably just a job title, because with the whole Justice League fiasco before, like all those people were just removed from those positions.
Right.
They brought him in, and he's had a really good conversation there with Jim Lee and Greg Berlanti, and their goal there was just to discuss the multiverse, right? Which is just the next big thing in the superhero genre, because Marvel's going to do it too, right? We already with Doctor Strange.
They've already teased They've already mentioned the 616 universe. They kind of teased it in Spider-Man, but it was really that was kind of
a joke. But
yeah, but I mean, they're aware of it, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they're doing something.
Planning it, and I believe their Doctor Strange movie will come out before any multiverse type stuff from DC.
Do you think their version of the Ultimates, Nick Fury, will be like a white guy again in that one? Like 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 they invite Dr. Samuel Jackson, their regular one.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's another bad joke. But
yeah, either way, both companies have a lot to pull from. It's just it's no longer concerning in terms of their continuity and their trajectory. It's kind of like everything is open to extract from, and it's just nice to hear the people at the top who are making the decisions lean into that. And we had a tease of this multiverse a while ago in Greg Berlanti's Crisis crossover, where they actually brought in Ezra Miller to have a cool scene with Grant Gust's Flash.
Yeah,
and they show that again if people have never seen it, and it's pretty funny. They talk about how they ad-libbed it, how they had to track down the suit, how they were happy that Ezra still fit it.
Right.
They make note of how that's how Ezra's version of the Flash like learns of the Flash name.
Oh really?
Yeah, like he was.
He's like what's the Flash? Right. Yeah.
And so that's kind of a cool little crossover, like a tidbit of a crossover, what it's capable of in a multiverse type setting. And then we also knew that the Flash was coming up after this, so it's pretty cool that they're just like, doubling down on the multiverse, and then they transition to the Flash, showing that that's how it's going to really be expanded. And then we've heard rumors, obviously, of Michael Keaton and.
Well, there's this picture in the Flash panel, which came out, I think, almost right after that one.
Right.
There's this picture that they showed of how like his new suit, which is more like sleek, more traditional Flash suit, but he's standing next to Batman, and like that's obviously Michael Keaton's Batman, right? Like
1989 Batman.
You know what I mean? Like the big yellow
that was
thing there.
Recent rumor news that did we cover that?
Yeah, I think we did. Yep.
And it was like this whole
Batman
thing
was the episode.
Who was going to appear in it? Was it going to be Ben Affleck? Is it going to be Jeffrey Dean Morgan's version of Batman?
All of them is the answer.
And then Michael Keaton came out of nowhere. Like, what the hell? And then with the multiverse, it just makes total sense. So yeah, just very very happy to see those three geek out and just talk about the future and the possibilities.
Yeah, it's cool to see. I think they have the right perspective on it. Two major takeaways for me. One is, yes, continuity is less of a focus now. The artist to be creative and tell different stories in different universes, and be less concerned about how it affects whatever DC's plan is for the more linear.
Yeah,
Justice
so
League
Hamada
story.
confirmed that Reeves' Batman is its own
Yeah,
own thing. It's year two
standalone.
Batman, and he kind of mentioned how the Justice League is like the base, and it kind of just goes from there because Flash is kind of like that key.
He's that, and they're just sticking with Ezra Miller, eh? That they've just doubled down on Ezra
that's the
Miller
thing. For that version of the Flash, right?
Right.
Like the point is that it frees them up. The other
Right.
thing that I thought was interesting, and again, the right perspective in my mind, I think it was Hamada that said this. Because it's so open for interpretation, what they're really focusing on is great stories first, not the characters, right?
Right.
Not like, oh, we could do something cool in this universe and then it's a throwaway story. It's that we need to find the right people with the right ideas. And if this is a story worth telling, then we can tell it and not worry about the continuity. I thought
Sure.
that was
Yeah,
great.
and even a fan even mentioned like, would you be willing to do Red Sun or whatever? Which is funny.
Yeah.
Because it just came out as an animated movie, and
Right.
he
Pretty
said
good
we're
one, I
not
think.
we're not looking at that right now, but basically, yeah, like stories like that, we are actively
Gotham by Gaslight. How cool would a Gotham by
thinking
Gaslight
live
movie
action,
be?
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. It's like nothing's off the table as
And
long
it
as
just-
the right people are behind
Right,
it.
it just finally we have the right people on the top, and Hamada says like it's all about the characters, and the fans want to see all these characters. So this is their way in bringing those characters in a really cool way.
Right. You could also argue that it makes it more complicated if you have to juggle instead of just one universe's continuity, you have to now think about multiple universes continuity. I mean, it doesn't sound like that they care about
Well,
that, but like you
They mentioned
could get yourself in
They
a
mentioned that they don't want to oversaturate it too
Right.
with crazy events. Like they want to maintain like a specialness to it, so it'd be few and far between if there's any major.
so
type-
do like a crises.
yeah.
Crises.
It wouldn't be like every year or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, like, and I think it's only a matter of time before we get a crisis of blank movie. We've already had the show version of it, which was underwhelming, but it's at least they're thinking about it. Obviously, Greg Berlanti is heavily involved now. It's interesting how he went from making a show called Arrow that was clearly like a ripoff of Batman Begins into what is now like the craziest comic book TV universe ever made.
Now they're going to use it to their
yeah.
advantage going forward.
And they're gonna start hooking that into like stuff with HBO Max and things that they're doing on the
And
big
we
screen.
talked about that a long time ago. Like
Yeah.
how cool would it be if there was some sort of multiverse crossover? We just never thought they would go for it. Like there's
Right.
just too many pieces to the puzzle there to harness.
I tuned in right at the end of that one, and there was an interesting line where he said he's like, I can go see a Batman movie. Someone said, I don't remember who said it, but he's like, I can go see a Batman movie, and then I can go see Lego Batman. I know they're not the same Batman. Like I'm not confused by that.
Right.
Audiences aren't going to be confused by that, right?
And Joker's an example of that too, right? Making
yeah.
$1 billion.
Right. And I'm sure there's the odd person that says, "Oh, I can't wait to see that version of Joker face off against Matt Reeves' Batman or something." But that's a small group. I don't think you have to worry too much about
And then
that.
Hamada mentioned that HBO Max is kind of like the central hub, almost like the clubhouse for all of these
Right.
really cool ideas, which leads to me to believe that, let's say the Snyder cut does well
Right.
in its execution on
So you
HBO
get
Max.
a Justice League
And
series
then, well, there's
on.
rumors of Ben Affleck.
yeah.
Like, obviously, Ben Affleck's coming back. Like that's.
Oh yeah,
now
that
in the news.
that was a news bit that
Wasn't
we were
in-
going to talk about
yeah,
this
wasn't
week.
in DC fandom yet. Like they didn't announce
No.
any of that, but
He was in the Justice League Snyder Cut
panel thing. Yeah.
panel thing.
Kind
Kind of.
That
briefly.
leaves it open, for that universe to continue in the streaming service.
Right. I think it's good for the films because it gives them a venue to expand stories a bit more through long form storytelling, and then maybe capitalize on those, like you said, those bigger events on the big screen. And it's good for the small screen stuff, like the stuff that's going on in the CW, because I think ultimately it just means that they're going to get bigger budgets and be able to do more ambitious stories that they wouldn't have been able to do before.
Surprises too. They're gonna
Right.
get people to really want to tune in.
Like Batman might actually show up in that world at some point, right?
The Flash, Ezra Miller's Flash showed up.
Right.
So
So it's exactly so like who knows what versions of Batman. For whatever reason, that's the one character that they have a Superman. They've had references to Green Lantern. They've talked about Batman, but he's never appeared in that Arrowverse, which is kind of weird. But it just seems like that's more likely to start happening now, like those bigger kind of characters and stuff like that. I mean, we already know there's going to be a Lois and Clark show. that's probably going to get a little bit, maybe a bigger budget now because it's probably going to go to HBO Max a little bit as well. So, yeah, it's all very exciting having a multiverse first mentality, which is a cool way to think about it. Okay, what else happened? After the Multiverse 101 was the Flash panel. This one was actually, I liked the style of this one. This one was like the most stylish panel that they did. It had like those little like Flash facts thing with Ezra Miller, and that's the only time I've liked Ezra Miller. Was he was doing that.
You're gonna like this panel. While I was watching it, I was like, Julian's gonna dig this. I think he's gonna laugh at it.
It was good. I thought it was very clever. I think
the funniest one I laughed at, I think, was about he just said something about a hippopotamus.
He's like, just so you know, a hippopotamus can outrun a human. Just be aware of that.
And that's the point of this panel, was to just highlight all the creatives involved, right? Just get everyone on board as to what they're making here.
My favorite Flash fact was the Andy Warhol Batman movie thing he talked about.
Oh, right.
It's an unlicensed Batman movie made by Andy Warhol in like the 70s or something, and had like Velvet Revolver or something was the as the music in it. It's like really nutty combination of things. I was like, I've never heard of that. I want to track that down and see how insane it is. One thing I forgot to mention about the multiverse panel was that they kept like showing all the different like venues that they have to like explore, right? Like they showed like basically every form of Batman or DC character on screen. But Watchmen kept coming back up in there, which is like, well, what does that mean? Like that's just that was just made me question it.
In the multiverse panel about that, and he's like, they mentioned Doomsday Clock, and he's like, that's like, we don't want to take away from how Watchmen is somewhat separate. So there's not going to be like, even though they showed a lot of that footage, which I think is cool because Zack Snyder made that, right? So, and he's heavily involved now.
Well, no, they showed footage from the TV show too.
Oh,
which I thought was
they showed Dr. Manhattan.
They picking up the mask, and they also showed what's her name? Nun something. Sister Knight. Not Nun something. You know what I mean? Like with the mask on. So I was like, well, that's kind of cool. But maybe they just did it because it like looked cool, visually interesting. But they haven't made any announcements about expanding the Watchmen stuff, and I don't expect them to until they have some sort of really. It's best
when those
movie.
Things don't need to cross over. They can be their own great properties in their own little corners.
But yeah, it was basically the director, or showcasing the director and what he's bringing to the table. How they're focused on how it's going to be a range of emotions, right, across the spectrum: funny, scary. Which, he directed I believe one of the It movies, or did he do both? I don't remember.
He said, he did It. Yeah, he did the last It film. I don't know if he did both, but for sure the first one. And they did show they like started showing the references he had to the and it, like you look like Clark Kent or whatever.
So it showcases how much he loves the character. And then they showed the screenwriter, who I think wrote Birds of Prey.
Right.
And she talks about how she just loved the Flashpoint storyline, which they're loosely, basing it on. And she said she fell in love with it because at the end of the day, it's just a boy trying to save his mom or something.
Well, she does this whole thing where she's like, Batman lost his parents, Superman loses his planet, Flash, has his own origins, but he's the only one who has the abilities. Like his powers actually allow him to change the outcomes of those events, and none of those other characters do, unless you count Superman flying backwards around the world. But you know what I mean. So I think that's a really like fascinating look at it, right? Like it's like all these tragic past, but then his ultimately, although also tragic, he can undo it, but he can't, because if he does, it like creates his everything
that's
else.
What makes it even to a degree more tragic is that he can, and he has to choose not to. Right? He has a responsibility to not change it, even though that's the one thing that he wants more than anything else.
And it's interesting you mentioned, Jeremy, about like the director and like showing clearly how he's like likes the character, knows the character, all that kind of stuff, which is good. And I think they always say that, but I think this DC fandom has done a really good job of showing kind of like behind the scenes some of these creators and like how they actually like obsess over the stuff. Like what was the musician who was singing on the
Chris
Daughtry. It's so funny. Like he's like his living room is like looks like this room basically. It's just got like artwork on it, like some sweet Batman stuff. And then like the next video they're doing, he's singing in his room, and he's got like every cowl from every Batman in the back of his room. Like I think that's kind of cool. You really get to see the personality of these people. So we have Marcos here live on Twitch.
What's up?
friend of the show. Marcos
He
also.
always tunes in. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. And super fan, you could say. And then Absorber 369, he says, "Hey, what's up, Absorber?" Anyway, Marcos is saying, "Is this going to be an interlude for everything up until this point, or are you guys going to cover things that are happening as they happen, basically?" Yes and no. I mean, we're kind of what's the T minus like 10 minutes out from the next big panel,
Right.
so we'll probably pause the stream and come back and react to that, and then release the whole show as one.
We'll be sort of like fading in and out in between the panels.
Because there's stuff happening. There's some new stuff happening here, and then basically after the Batman one, it's all just replays of panels for the rest of the day, for people in different time zones and stuff.
I missed the Sandman one. Did you catch?
I did, but I wasn't too into that one. But I believe they were talking about like the live action series and stuff like that.
I mean, I know nothing about
but Neil
it.
Gaiman was there, talked a
sweet.
bunch.
Nice.
He's been a lot more involved with Sandman lately.
Yeah, and it was hosted by the Yvette from Community.
Yvette Nicole Brown.
Okay, so what else? So there's the Flash panel. I thought that was fun. After that was what they called Beyond Batman, which was, I think, hilarious and like really kind of maybe not hilarious, but just like a fun, clever thing to do, which was have Batman Beyond and old Bruce Wayne basically doing a Mystery Theater 3000, whatever it's called. Is it Mystery Theater 3000? Of an episode or elements of an episode of Batman 66, which is really weird for sure. But I thought it was kind of fun. What did you guys think?
Yeah, it was cute.
Yeah, I mean,
don't know.
that's like the popular humor nowadays,
Yeah.
right? Is to like,
Is
make
that-
fun of like your own stuff, I
Mm.
guess, right?
Mhm.
Meta humor.
But do you think that they redrew parts of Batman Beyond? Or they
No,
just
no, they were just. It
dubbed
looked like
over
they
it?
were using existing footage.
Yeah, it looks like they were cutting back to the same clip
Right.
and just dubbing it differently.
Yeah.
I tell you what I don't understand is the claymation in between
Oh
segments.
yeah.
It's little
It's-
babies. I think it's like some sort of UK
Yeah.
kids show that
Yeah.
I'm not aware of.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But there's these little like 1 minute clips in between panels for some reason.
And it's literally just babies talking, and they've animated claymation over
But
it.
like even all of them are like they're all like just the punchline of a joke, not the setup. Like they're all like just.
Well, are you
the
telling me
last
that
30
the
seconds.
babies aren't good at telling jokes? Is that your critique?
I'm just saying I don't understand what they're trying to accomplish with those.
I think the like last joke is always the funniest in those because it's usually like someone getting cut off or like there's one where it's like this little girl pretending to be Catwoman and then she's like I'm really sneaky and like whatever and then like falls down. It's like slapstick humor. I don't know. So it's fine. That is weird. It is weird though. After that was the Suicide Squad panel. Now this one had a lot more juice in it than some of this other stuff. It had James Gunn basically introduce the entire cast of the movie,
Yeah, it was basically
and
just
it's
like
crazy.
a hangout with everybody, and then did he kick it off, or what happened right away? Did he show the trailer whoever was playing, or was that after?
He said we're gonna announce all the people what they're playing. You guys have had questions, guesses, whatever, and then he does. There's like this little animated reveal, and then he does it again with each person as he introduces it.
Because you see everybody in full costume.
Mhm.
It's done up nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just a big hangout with all of them. They're all like quizzing each other or something like that, trying to keep track.
Yeah, they
of
did like a
points.
game
Yeah.
show thing. But yeah, no, it's a huge cast.
And then James Gunn was basically just very adamant that it's like the best time he's ever had on a movie, the best cast he's ever.
He
worked
keeps
with,
saying that. I was like, it's like this is so weird. Like,
the
it's like,
most
are
fun
you
he's ever had,
are
and he's
you
just
are
bashing
you like?
Marvel.
it's like you're just bashing
There's
more.
all-
It just
there's
seemed
all these
like it.
memes of like facial reaction memes
Right.
of anything, right? Whether it's like
Yeah.
Will Smith looking all teary-eyed or something. It's like the cast of
The best cast I've ever had.
What's the other movie? Guardians of the Galaxy. Like listening
Yeah.
to this.
Right. That's pretty funny. Because, like, I was thinking the same thing. It's like people really like his. Like, it's right at the top. It says a James Gunn movie. That doesn't happen without Guardians of the Galaxy. People don't know who he is, as much maybe. But like, so it's really weird to be like that upfront and like honest. And maybe this is the best cast he's ever worked with yet, or right now, or whatever.
The goal was just
But
to
like,
show how fun
yeah.
the environment is with all the different personalities, and then instead of a trailer, which I think is smart, since they did reveal the movie's coming out in August, so a year away.
right? They did behind the
behind
scenes.
the scenes footage to showcase how like fun and action packed it was. So it was a pretty good trailer in that regard.
Yeah. Do we want to go through the full cast here?
It's a lot.
Do we,
Yeah.
we'll
Idris
highlight
Elba,
a couple of
basically,
them.
because everyone
Yeah.
was guessing who he was. I don't know if people guessed Bloodsport. I think or was it Blood?
It's Bloodsport, yeah. And he's in jail because he shot Superman with a kryptonite bullet, which is like his background story for this, which is like pretty badass, I think.
I also like that he's not replacing Will Smith as
Yeah,
Deadshot.
for sure.
Which was the original, I think, what they planned to do. Is it because Will Smith didn't want to come back? Do we know what
I
the
think it might
story
be
is behind that?
scheduling conflicts, and I think it's smart to leave that door open if he wants to come back and reprise
Right.
that role. Since you have Margot Robbie coming back,
Right.
Rick Flag, that character. What's his actor's name?
No one knows. Joe
No,
Kinnaman?
he's pretty popular these days. But yeah.
Is he?
And then Viola Davis coming
so
back.
loud.
Right? That's
Awesome.
So amazing.
Nathan Fillion as well. Everybody always wants to see him in one of these movies. So here you go. I'm not familiar with the character TDK.
Neither do I. Like some of these I've never heard of before. So Bloodsport's also new to me. I've never.
That's how Suicide Squad works, though. It's really pulling from the
that way
dredges.
they can kill them.
Or the
people
most
are gonna
obscure
die,
characters.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's like Blackguard. So TDK. Jai Courtney's back as Captain Boomerang, which is fun. King Shark. So they revealed what the design for King Shark is very similar to the look of King Shark from the Harley Quinn animated series, like a more like less scary, more like lovable look
Nice
to him.
and thick.
Right. Yeah.
Completely animated, obviously.
Yeah, obviously, but it's Steve Agee. I don't know.
Steve Agee is
Agee.
on set King
Yeah.
Shark, and then he's also playing a different character.
Right. Okay.
But he's also voicing King Shark then too, probably, right?
Probably.
It doesn't say that.
'Cause he's like a comedic type.
Yeah, Steve Agee is a comedian. I don't know.
It's a weird.
I feel like
decision to
if he were voicing it, they would have explicitly said that.
Why the heck
Right.
would he need to do like just?
Like, why would you bring
on
Why would you bring a different person on? Like you could put anybody there, and then if that's the case, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then obviously Michael Rooker plays Savant, and like they showed his design, and it's very weird.
long white hair. And
Yeah, like
cool
red
coat.
goggles.
And he
Yeah.
kept like poking fun at him throughout the panel too.
Yeah, they all kind of ganged up on him.
But I think that's also due to the fact that James Gunn worked with him on
Right.
Guardians movies.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, I think he made a joke about how he's like legally obligated to include him in the movie or something like that. There, I guess, is like Javelin is the one without the really funky, weird costume, like bright green and blue. The Thinker. I'm trying to think if there's any other characters that stand out here. Obviously, John Cena's the Peacemaker, or not the Peacemaker, but Peacemaker. That's a kind of a cool idea. It kind of looks like Orion, like right out of the comic books, like design to him. He describes it as a douchey Captain America, which I think is a really fun jab. I think at Marvel a little bit. And then the weirdest one, of course, is Polka Dot Man, which that like in the panel they're like, who brings the most weapons to the fight? And obviously the answer is Bloodsport, but someone's answer for it was Polka Dot Man because he had all the polka dots, but like, and then started describing them like they're bombs, like he has got little bombs on him all the time. It's just very weird. I don't really understand any of that. And they described the movie as like a war film, like a 70s war movie, which I don't really know how I feel about that. That's like a very strange kind of tone I did not expect for but you know,
It didn't feel
I
like
trust
that
him.
though when you watch the behind the scenes footage. Like I didn't.
No.
get
Well,
it.
kind of the helicopters and stuff maybe kind of
A
gave
lot
it
of
that look.
action, for sure.
Yeah.
And he said something about like the most action in like all of his movies combined, or all Marvel movies.
Well, he's like, how many explosions are there? And he's like, I can't count how many explosions. There's just so many explosions, which is like the whole thing was a very weird panel. They played this like trivia game that I think that they thought would play better than it actually did. Some of these panels, because they're they're all pre-recorded, I imagine, but the way that they're edited or like cut together with footage from people kind of feels a little stilted from time to time.
Yeah,
but that's hard to beat.
just like throw up the video from as soon as they start recording to the end of it, because it would just there'd be weird gaps.
Yeah.
There's things you might not want to include.
You need to edit it. It does absolutely feel staged though, which obviously it is. This one felt a little bit more genuine just because I think they had longer periods of time when they were all kind of bantering back and forth.
There was a joke about Idris Elba's like flip-flops or like sandals. They called them mandals, I think, at one point, which is I thought kind of funny. Anyway, so that was the next one. What else happened? So Suicide Squad. There was a Legacy of the Bat panel, which I didn't think was very interesting. Then obviously the most important part, the Chris Daughtry performance. Then there was this Joker put on a face panel. Like a lot of these, like kind of came and went pretty quick and didn't really stand out to me. This one was more of a tease of what appeared to be a longer documentary. Have you guys seen any of these documentaries? Like, there's the one on the Batman the Animated Series that I think is on the Blu-ray. That is just available now. You can watch the whole thing on YouTube at DC's YouTube page. This seems to be in that same vein, but it was just like a trailer essentially for a longer Legacy of the Joker documentary that had like all the big Jokers, like in an interviewing them, like Jack Nicholson and talking about the character and stuff. That's pretty cool. Yeah,
interesting stuff. I think we have to pause right away, though.
Yeah. So let's take a break here.
Didn't even get to the Snyder Cut.
We haven't even got there yet, but that's okay because we'll discuss all this when we return. So give us one moment, and we will be.
For them, it's. Oh, I guess we're live. Yeah.
We'll be right back. Bum,
bum,
bum, bum, bum. And welcome back. Obviously, we just finished watching the Batman stuff. We actually rewatched the Batman trailer how many times? 3 times.
Yeah.
We stopped it. We went frame by frame. If you're looking for a frame by frame breakdown, you're not going to find it here. But
you'll for
if
sure
you were,
find it on YouTube.
There will be
in
many of
10
them.
minutes.
Yeah, there will be lots. So we are gonna break it all down and discuss the Batman, all the stuff, including the interviews and all that kind of stuff that went along with it. Would have liked to have seen a little bit more from Robert Pattinson, other than that 10-second clip of him being like, I guess
he's not very sociable.
Mumbling into a mic.
Yeah, what the hell was that?
He's a very soft-spoken guy. It's not a bad thing.
Right. Anyway, but we will also still break down the Snyder Cut, which we haven't done yet, and as well as touch on some of the game announcements, the Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, as well as Gotham Knights. So, where do you guys want to start? I guess is the question. Start with the Batman because it's the most recent.
It's freshest on my mind for sure.
Okay, let's start with that. Dan, you weren't here for the whole conversation with Jeremy? Help me out here, the director Matt Reeves.
It was a long one.
He basically talked for 20 minutes.
He's passionate.
He's a very smart guy.
He's passionate. He seems very genuine as well.
Yeah.
They're legitimately excited about this movie, and it does look great so far. Even though they're like you said, 20 to 30%.
Yeah,
film.
I thought there was way more than that done. I thought they were almost done.
Well, I think it was about 2 months before, we were seeing set
Right.
lists, and then June happened.
Right. Yeah.
Or May.
So either way, there's lots apparently that they need to redo. You were asking Jeremy, how do you think COVID affects this film in particular? They're going to go back, they're going to sit down, they're going to rethink some of the stuff they've been doing.
That goes with everything, even Wonder Woman, right? It's
well, that movie was done before Wonder Woman happened.
Yeah, but we were mentioning too, kind of a dumb comparison, but Cats in terms of the character Cheetah.
Right.
And the backlash over that movie,
Right.
and it's a similar looking type CG character.
Right,
You're
it's
trying
a
to have a
human-shaped
that
cat
you're trying
creature.
to have the face of the actor in, right? So who knows what could have happened with that? But with this, it's they get to kind of relax.
Release
for
the
a bit.
butthole cut.
No, they get to relax for a bit. They get to see what fans' reactions are to the trailer that just dropped. And then they get to resume, I guess eventually soon, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I heard that they're going to do all filming indoors, so they're going to create their own bubble, I assume, and just kind of get everything
Finish
done
the movie.
inside, which I
There's-
like, though, because then we won't get any more set picture leaks.
Yeah.
Because it'll be closed off.
Yeah.
You can't get in there to take pictures, so.
Well, so you think they've done all their on-location shooting at this point already? And they're just
I think
going to
they'll
do
be clever about it.
Right.
Maybe they'll have to use CG to make it look like they're outside in certain situations.
that I don't think will age well.
Well,
For the
see.
movie. Depends. I don't know. It's early to know. Marcos is back. He's saying he also watched the Batman panel, had no regrets. I think
skipped his homework.
Yeah, he skipped his homework. Shame, Marcos. Shame.
But it was nice though seeing
Yeah.
Reeves explain everything. Solidifying there's Batman Year 2. We also know that the Rogues Gallery, they're kind of coming into the picture. It's not necessarily
Right.
they've been established, right?
This isn't the Gotham Fox show where
Right,
all the villains are already there and then Batman walks onto the scene.
Well,
no,
there was some development there as well, though, with
Right.
the Penguin and the Riddler. But
It's Batman Year 2, but it's Catwoman and Riddler Year 1,
Yeah.
right? Not so much Penguin.
well, he also explains that Catwoman isn't necessarily Catwoman yet, and what we see here is that she's just cat
a
burglar.
cat blurgler. Yeah.
A blurgler?
Blurgler. That's right. A cat blurgler.
Clat blurgler.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Everyone's favorite cat blurgler, Spleena Kyle. Anyway, I thought her look was really cool. This is Zoe Kravitz.
Yep.
Um,
Didn't see much of her, but yeah, it looked cool.
well, I just like that they're teasing the cat element. So she's not Catwoman, but the kind of profile shot we get of her from behind has the ears kind of poking
they're
up.
not. They're kitten ears. They're not cat ears yet.
Right. They call her Kitten Girl.
And then, just to be clear, he said they shot a quarter.
Yeah.
So 25% of the
Yep.
movie. So
Yep.
pretty impressive trailer for what they have so far. It's very quick, a lot of quick cuts, but you get to see some scenarios play out. Character interactions, kind of, right, with Commissioner Gordon. Or not Commissioner yet, probably, I guess.
Yeah,
Or do you think
Detective Gordon.
and the music that we got teased with the first kind of teaser reveal. Of the
Michael
suits,
Giacchino.
Right.
Yep.
It amps up a bit more.
I think it's a very good
Yeah.
score for
Very
this trailer.
classical,
Yeah.
slow build up.
Mm-hmm. They talk about Matt Reeves talked about the series of murders that that Batman's investigating,
Right.
and that apparently, according to this trailer, it seems like are kind of like he's being called out. Batman's being called out, but that's so interesting. Is it because we know that the Riddler is the villain, but I are we to believe that Riddler is just going around murdering people? Like, is that what's happening? Or I don't think that's the case. That's not really his MO.
Well, even
as far as we know,
even
the Riddler, our
it
Riddler,
opens up with the duct tape sounds.
Yeah.
And then they reveal some sort of villain or whatever who's weird mask.
right?
That's clearly not the Riddler.
No,
But the whole messaging around the person he's murdered is very Riddler-esque.
right.
There's a
Rhyming
message where
and
they say,
stuff.
no
Yeah.
more lies or something like that.
Well,
No more lies, and it's directed to the Batman. All of the messages
Right.
are. So there's something personal there too, right? So
Mhm.
Riddler has something personal vis-a-vis Batman. We don't know what that is yet.
Well, and
obviously.
also Batman's personal vendetta with this, right? He's engaged in it, not just because it's like some sort of bystanders that are getting murdered. It's maybe
Mhm.
someone more close to him.
Well, it's the in my mind. Okay, so it's year 2.
Yeah.
So presumably year 1 is he's going after the crime families and a lot of like the
he did the famous like you've all
yeah,
fed well or whatever
Sure.
thing, and
Which
he's
is
like
reminiscent in the one scene there
where
where
he-
he says, "I am vengeance."
right.
yeah. But the idea, in my mind at least, is that he hasn't faced a supervillain as yet as Batman, right? So this is like the
True
first
test.
instance of
His
that,
presence created
that dynamic
Right.
where he's inviting supervillains because it's a challenge to these people
Right.
now. So him being the world's greatest detective is going to be a challenge for the Riddler.
right. It's the Moriarty
so
thing.
This is the beginning of that. I think that's an interesting dynamic every time.
Which is, you mentioned Moriarty, like
Sherlock.
which is, we reported on a long time ago over like rumors of how this movie's going to play out,
Mhm.
where all these characters are going to fit those roles as these murders are happening. And Matt Reeves said it's going to really dive deep into the detective qualities of Batman, which hasn't necessarily happened before, and especially to this degree, with him
Mhm.
setting up multiple murders and him trying to figure out what's going on with the
I
riddles
just-
too.
I have a vision of this movie in my mind, and I don't want it to like taint my. I hate that word. I'm
That's
sorry.
fair.
I'm sorry. I hate
Release
that word.
the butthole cut.
I'm so
Referring
sorry. I
to
said that.
cats because they
Yeah,
they remove the buttholes. And cats
Right.
movie that you've all
Yeah,
seen.
yeah. Please describe why
huge
we're saying.
controversy.
Yeah, we thought about scrapping this whole episode and just concentrating on that one thing. Anyway, I don't want that version of the movie in my head to just like change my expectations for what the movie is, but but based off the things that they're saying, right, about the multiple murders and the these characters kind of coming in and out of the story, it just feels like it has like a lot of momentum to it and like a really like strong driving narrative that is gonna include like like references and hints at characters that we know and even if it's just like light stuff, it's gonna feel not like winky, at the audience, the stuff
Yeah,
that you don't like,
yeah.
Dan.
Absolutely.
It's gonna feel more like grounded in the world, seemingly based off of like what Matt
Presumably,
Reeves
hopefully.
is telling us. So I think that's what's most exciting to me. He like just the way he described just the whole nature of making this movie, like grounding it and taking, what did he say? It took a year to design the suit, like.
Yeah.
Just like he's writing, and then there's like concepts that are coming into him all the time, and he's like changing it and changing how he writes the movie. Like I think that's such a amazingly collaborative and like artistic approach to writing a movie like this. Like we've known about this movie for so long; it's been in development for so long, but like we finally see it kind of coming together here, and it seems like it's kind of hitting on those right notes. Is there anything that is concerning you about this movie at this point? Daniel, the hair. You didn't like the hair.
Well, that is like such a nitpicky comment. It doesn't even matter. Yeah, Robert Pattinson's hair as Bruce Wayne is like, it's like a mushroom cut. Whatever. It's not that big a deal.
Wow, I wouldn't
But
describe
it's-
it like
it's
that.
longer, but
Yeah.
he's young, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah,
you can't
it's
just
fine.
have the classic Bruce Wayne
Crew cut.
Coned back, gel,
Right.
perfect. So yeah, I'm fine with
But
that.
like the thing, Jeremy, you had a good point
Yeah.
though. When I mentioned the hair, it was like forget about the hair. That is the scene at what we're assuming is a funeral, where a car crashes through, and then there's a guy that has a bomb strapped to him,
Mhm.
and the look that Robert
Oh, it's
Pattinson's able to
amazing.
deliver there, that is phenomenal.
Crazy.
That's a
It's very
perfect
fiery.
performance. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Matt Reeves describes Batman, he's saying like he doesn't have superpowers, but he has superhuman drive and superhuman determination.
Yeah, which all stems from his origin, right, with the family tragedy.
So if they really lean into that, and it's obviously going to be pretty brutal. Like I don't think it doesn't seem like it's going to be like softened very much. Like there's like a handful of extended scenes that we get in this trailer. One of them is him beating up some punk.
There's some violence,
and he destroys him. But it's like that very satisfying Batman combat, which just like looks like,
like he's utilizing martial arts and
right.
whatnot. Like he pinpoint accuracy, knows what he's doing. We've had hints of that with Christian Bale,
right?
Even Ben Affleck's Batman, but here it's like we're gonna show it to you what it sounds like and looks like, and it's very fast.
Yeah,
and then it even goes even further and just shows how much anger is behind it as well, because he beats the guy on the ground as well, and then has that classic line, "Vengeance," which is pretty cool.
Which is nice, like a nice change, because honestly, like you could see him saying "I'm Batman" in that moment, but he chose to say "I'm Vengeance" instead, which is a nice little.
I am the Knight. I am Vengeance. Do you guys like the voice? I mean, we don't get a lot of it, but it seems like it's pretty subtle. Like they're not overthinking it. It's kind of like just put a voice
doesn't
on.
Sound too growly,
right?
It sounds still youngish, like he is. So.
Yeah, no, honestly, no complaints from that trailer, and it's very impressive that they were able to put together what, in my mind, is a legitimate. Like that could have been the final trailer for the movie, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. With what they have filmed, we don't know if it was obviously the quarter wasn't in sequence, right? There's bits and
right.
pieces.
But
we don't. We hear Alfred. We don't see Alfred. We don't see Penguin. We don't see Riddler. We see Catwoman and Batman and Gordon, and that's about it, right? For then maybe the mayor. They hint at.
Yeah, we think because like that guy looks like a liar.
Yeah, because dishonesty is one of the themes of the trailer. Right. There's lies are mentioned in a few of the different cuts. So
what's the price for your blind eye? I think is one of the lines.
We don't see Falcone at all. If we're talking about John Turturro, which is obviously.
I think maybe in pictures and like on the you stop it with the cutouts. Okay. I think that's at his house, so I think he might be dead.
But I mean, we were talking like what a legendary actor. Obviously gonna have a major role here.
I don't.
In terms of crime?
Honestly, I don't know because if it looked like there was like newspaper clippings that framed up on the wall that were referencing him. That's like something that someone who's really narcissistic might put in their own home. So if that is actually Carmen Falcone dead, that's who is the murder victim in that crime scene. It's like a very opulent house, right? Then maybe he's only in the movie for a little bit, and he might be like the first or second murder victim.
Yeah, I mean that's one way to look. I don't think that's him. I can't imagine them going the route of him having his own articles on the wall. It's more likely somebody investigating the Falcone.
But they were like
scene.
framed, weren't they?
Yeah.
But then look at Falcone and Batman Begins, like how a powerhouse that character was, specifically in the beginning with Batman, right? Just kind of telling him to fuck off or whatever, which sent him on this whole whole thing. So I don't think they'll cast that Turturro and then not utilize him in it.
They had a good actor play him in Batman Begins too. Yeah.
So what it looks like to me is like, okay, so we're saying it's not Batman Year 1, it's Year 2. Like it really, to me, because of the murder mystery thing, it's Long Halloween, right?
Yeah, I think they've referenced that.
There's even a picture that leaked, or someone got like a paparazzi photo of who's the actor who plays Gordon?
Something Wright? No, that's Robin Wright. Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a Wright in there.
He's walking and he's holding the Long Halloween, like the graphic novel.
Oh, so interesting. He was like a paparazzi photo of him. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, he's getting to know the story and his characters.
I love this casting as Gordon. Not Commissioner Gordon. We're assuming, but it's such a perfect look. I mean, he's had a mustache in a lot of roles, which makes it easy to like that.
The glasses
and the glasses and the mustache.
He didn't even do the thing. Like his glasses stayed at the top of his nose. 90%.
No, this time he's gonna take them off and like clean them, then put them back on.
He does that a lot in Westworld.
Like, he's always like talking down his nose, then looks up like that, and it works. God damn it, it works every time.
And every time he does it, you're like, what's he gonna say? He's really good in everything. I think he's great in everything. Yes, thank you, Marcos. This is Jeffrey Wright. So Marcos asked here, what was the Riddler? Do we think that's the Riddler in that near Hush getup? No, I don't. We don't think so. I think we touched on that before. Like he's the one wearing that weird mask.
Yeah, I don't see the Riddler as being like in the mix of any action or any
He's
interaction.
pulling the
I feel like
strings,
he's
right?
Very behind the scenes, fooling people.
But the Riddler, to your point, Marcos, is that the Riddler has done stuff like that before in other things. Like even in Long Halloween, he has dressed up as other villains, or even in the Hush movie that came
I
out.
was gonna say
God damn
the
it.
most recent Hush movie where he's literally dressed up as Hush.
Right.
So
Yeah.
with that being said, I also don't think that that's the case. I think
That was a
it's
weird
red
twist in
herring.
that movie.
Yo,
Anyway,
he has some sort of serum or something though, right? Like to make him like a super villain, and though like he's got like super strength and shit.
he comes back. Didn't he come back from the dead in
yeah,
like
Yeah, he went to the
Lazarus
Lazarus
pit.
pit.
Lazarus pit? Yeah. But he is jacked.
Yeah,
like
yeah. Like you
that's
punch
true.
him and like he just eats them and stuff.
yeah. It's funny because the Riddler gets super jacked in the Harley Quinn animated series too, which is pretty funny. Okay, is there any other thoughts on the Batman? Big fan of that title also. I think we talked about this before, but I think that's just a very clean.
Yeah, the
Honestly,
logo's
like
cool too.
Yeah, we were like cautiously optimistic. So far, so good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, knock on wood.
Mm-hmm. We're probably not going to get more footage of this movie for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They basically say they haven't resumed yet, so
Yeah, they teased 2021 as the release date, and then that's still the release date. It was question mark.
Make it because I don't think this is a movie that's going to rely heavily on CG
Yeah,
post-production type.
maybe. You just worry more about them just being able to complete, production just generally,
The actual filming of it.
right? And then there is still, regardless of how much post-production needs to be done, there is still the editing process and all that kind of stuff does take time. So, you've got about a year and a half, maybe, give or take, less than that to kind of.
Yeah, I think they can make it happen. I mean, all the editing and stuff, like for the most part, that can be done remotely, right? It's
Well,
really
and
the
they've edited
filming.
some of it already
So
as they go. So.
The hardest part is getting people together to film it safely, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then in that case, let's maybe shift gears a little bit. Let's see, what else did we not cover? So let's get to the Snyder Cut, then we'll cover the game stuff to close. So if anyone's not interested in the games coverage, they can tune out at that time. Okay, Jeremy, as the resident Snyder Cut aficionado here, we'll pass to you first. You want to set this up?
Sure. Okay, so I guess over the last few days, though, we've been getting a bunch of teases for this. I don't know if you guys have watched them, but
I have.
okay. You haven't watched them, Dan? No.
Daniel didn't know what DC fandom was until literally yesterday. He was like, "What's this DC fandom?" I honestly thought you were joking.
I thought
when
we
you said
we
that.
told them already a while ago.
Yeah, I thought we
think
did
I
too.
know you
I
guys
think he's
mentioned it,
leaning
and
into the
we
joke part of it.
we talked about it on last episode.
We talked about it, and I think I kind of immediately forgot. But I'm doing this thing where like I'm basically like not on my phone and not doing any research
Right,
for these
cool.
things,
That's
so.
a really cool thing.
Yeah, so either way, Snyder on Twitter was just releasing like countdowns basically. So he'd release some photos sometimes, right? It'd say 5 days and then 4 days, whatever, right? The last few days he released like, I don't know, it was like 5-second teasers or whatever. And those ones are really, really cool. They showcased some music that we're not going to see, that we haven't heard before by Junkie XL. Also, correction from last time, I said Hans Zimmer and Junkie XL are working together. They're not.
It's just Junkie XL?
Yeah, but they're
Okay.
using.
Yeah, that's truer to what Hans Zimmer said about being
but
done
they're-
with this whole thing.
But they're using his score for
right,
Superman in this.
like the
movie.
Superman stuff. Yeah, I just want to hear that piano. I just want to hear that piano
And they
as
they
many
remixed it a
times
bunch in,
as
in,
possible.
DBS too, so there
Yeah.
could be some remix of that.
I
as
just
well.
want. I watched elements of some parts
Yeah.
of Man of Steel recently. That score holds up. That movie is pretty good. There's elements that don't work very well, and I think they kind of
But
misunderstand the
elements that
character.
do, ooh.
They hit, and
The action,
that
the fight.
score really works. I think I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to go off on that
Yeah,
tangent.
Either
but
way, I got really hyped for this. I think the Thursday teaser, and the first shot was it was Superman, shirtless. The scene that we know of when he's fighting the Justice League after he comes back.
right. Mm-hmm.
But just the way it's shot and they show him, it just like rose my hype so much.
But what was different about that than the
Well, the
cut
music,
that we got?
right? It was like this really epic sounding, like concise music. Again, these are just little snippets, right? Like, I think there was 2 shots from these teasers leading up that weren't in the theatrical cut.
Okay.
One with Flash running in supposedly the Speed Force, where it shows him kind of creating, as he's stepping, it's creating ground below
Right.
him.
Mm-hmm. I saw that. Yeah.
That was that was yesterday. They showed that one. And then the day before that, it was Cyborg we never seen that shot where he's kind of
Like
he's stepping forward, but he's like crying at the same
Yeah.
time, and he's not able to move as easily. But yeah, I liked how Zach was teasing everybody slowly with these images and then the teaser trailers, and then we get the trailer finally around like 5
Right.
p.m. And the first shot we get is Dark Side. So there you go.
Right.
Like,
there's Dark Side. Yeah.
Pretty cool. Like the CG looked to me didn't look like it was unfinished. It looked legit.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, he uses the song that got made fun of in Watchmen
Yeah.
forever. And
Yeah.
and when I heard that, I laughed. I was like, that's a pretty badass move.
I
Use
think
that
it's
song
it's
that
kind of
everyone-
trolly, isn't it? Like, isn't that a
100%,
little
but
bit
that-
like?
that's the
bit, yeah.
point- that's almost kind of the point of like it's finally here. You know, we're not going to show you like this trailer.
It just seems petty.
I don't think so.
No,
It's-
because
it's like a rejoicing moment. Like I had like chills when that was playing. I was like, yes, finally we get the unaltered version from this man's mind
With
No
the
holds
best
barred.
possible song over
But
top
it's
of
not
it.
about like convincing you that you need to go watch this movie.
Right.
We're all gonna
We already
watch
know.
this.
Yeah.
This
That's
is
already.
just
Yeah.
like a celebration of that, but with some new like visuals on top of that.
I would say that the song doesn't really fit the theme of the visuals as much, but I understand.
It's a little meta. a little bit.
I don't know that it's. I guess it is petty to a degree, but like the idea is like the trolls are the people being petty. He's trolling trolls.
Yeah.
Like it's like an anti-troll. You know, it's
But
so it goes all the way around.
No,
like,
but then if you
It's-
lower yourself to
it's
their
not that though. It's not that. It's just
it's a point of critique for whatever reasons that people latch on.
well,
to.
it was a little on the nose in Watchmen. Like it was kind of like
Okay, so we can't get into that. 'cause
What do you mean?
Well, like,
it doesn't
it's just
matter.
like it's a little over the. You guys don't think that song choice at that time is a little over the top?
No.
It's a little much. You don't think?
I guess the version of the song is a bit sexier than other versions
I think
of
it's
that
the
song,
normal.
but
I
the
think
song
it's the original
itself is.
version. I think it's the Leonard Cohen version that he uses, and in here, it's the original version of the song.
Right. Not the
It's
Jeff
your-
Buckley
it's
song.
It's
version,
your
which is
like
much more
yeah,
popular.
it's your definition of what that song means to you. Like if you think that's supposed to be this lovey-dovey, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's a rejoicing type like moment in time while that's playing. The history revolved around Snyder, the critique, all that stuff. It's like fuck all that. Here you go. Let's rejoice in this. And the visuals were stunning. The color grading compared to the theatrical version was noticeably different. The tone, the driving.
I didn't find that.
Well, you didn't look
I
side
didn't
to
find that to
side,
be
so
true.
how
Well,
could you know?
Well, no, I didn't.
Exactly.
I did not do a side by side
So
comparison.
then that's the thing. There are gonna be people who are gonna critique this trailer and say, "Oh, it looks the same as the theatrical cut." I mean, it's a 2-minute trailer, and we're getting a 4-hour part. So, like, why would you even say
Yeah,
that?
I think that's
can't
the
say
biggest.
that.
That's the biggest news besides the actual trailer, which is that he said we're doing 4 1-hour episodes, I guess, for lack of a better word, segments.
What's a better word than that?
Well, because they're not episodes. It's like it's one thing just broken up into 4 1-hour pieces. So, and then it also said that they're going to put some sort of 4-hour holistic
At the
version.
end, you'll be able to,
Yeah.
if you want to sit through 4 straight hours of it, you can.
But I imagine it'll be like slightly different than the 4-hour like separated cut. I don't know.
I don't know. Hard to say. It's neither here nor there.
Right. Well, the point being is that was being speculated, that we didn't know like how many hours, how long it would be.
No, we knew it was 4 hours. We just didn't know what the official rollout was
how
going
they
to
were
be.
going to break it
And
out.
I always
yeah.
said that I was a fan of the 4-hour kind of series, like a week-to-week type
Mm-hmm.
thing, engaging conversation.
Yeah. At one point, we said
digestible.
6, maybe
Yes,
6
I
episodes.
remember 6 for some reason as well.
I just think
Mhm.
the critique for Snyder is that I think it boils down to he's not able to put everything in there that he wants to, and then it's lost in translation for some people. So I think the hour to the week to week, you get an hour at a time. It's a lot of content. It's 4 hours for a movie here.
It's huge.
You're going to be able to digest it way better than sitting there. Like if you're watching The Irishman or something, or you're watching
Oh my
whatever,
God.
right? This is the way to do it.
Even The Irishman, they had like act break kind of like fade to black periods.
Yeah.
I think the challenge with doing this though for 4 hours is that it is a movie. This isn't a TV series, right?
Right.
So yes, they're adding content to it, but it's like how do you decide when to stop, and how is that a satisfying 1 hour?
Right,
of
which is
TV?
what I'm saying is I think that the 4-hour, 1-hour segment, the 4-hour piece that's broken into 1-hour segments is going to be edited slightly differently than what a 4-hour one piece
we don't
cut
know
would
that.
look like. That would be my assumption. Because
I
it
would
is
doubt
different.
it now, just because if it's the same time, it just doesn't make sense to me how you piece that together differently. And I think it's going to work this way better, again, in terms of digesting the plot points, the story elements. It isn't just the beginning of the movie is going to be similar to the end. It's a buildup of a team. So I think it's going to really do way better with the buildup of the team and then coming together. The next episode is this is happening. I just can't wait.
No, it certainly can be done. It just needs some creative editing. Like you just have to find the right plot points to stop with, so that you're not, there's not too much momentum going into the close of an episode.
Right. I mean that'll be tough. It doesn't matter because we'll break it down each week when it comes out. That'll be fun. Try to maybe like compare and contrast versus what we got from the theatrical release.
Yeah, again, it's 214 minutes as opposed to 110 minutes the theatrical run. So, and he even says in the beginning, right, like in terms of characters cut, like Cyborg was dramatically cut from this movie, like an insane amount. It was Cyborg and Flash.
He's barely in the movie in the theatrical release.
And then the consensus
he just emerges out of the woods.
The consensus of Cyborg when the theatrical cut was out was that holy fuck, Cyborg was good in this movie. Like holy cow.
That's true. I remember like we all went around the table and said that Cyborg was kind of like our favorite in terms of performances of the theatrical version. Cyborg was kind of our favorite part. And what was interesting in the thing is Snyder said that Cyborg in his mind was the heart of the film, and it really didn't come through in the theatrical version.
No, because they completely changed it.
So that's where all the content is, and that's something that I'm very excited to see.
We see one key sequence here with the Mother Box and Silas Stone, who is killing himself in order to, I guess, protect the Mother Box, destroy it, and not give it to Steppenwolf.
Protect Vic, right? Like he's trying to, he's sacrificing himself to protect everyone else, and it's an emotional scene.
These are the things that are just going to be so dramatically different that people right now might not be able to accept or realize, but we just have to wait till we get there, and then the conversation is going to be way different once this movie's out.
So we had a question from Marco. Said, "Don't answer now," but I didn't because that was before. So he said, "Darkseid in the trailer is apparently in his Uxas form. I don't know how to pronounce that. What does that mean? I don't know." Is the answer? Dan?
So what you do is highlight that word and then just right click, and we can Google search it because I'm not familiar with that either.
Yeah, I'm aware that it's like another name that he has.
Well, there was
like how do you pronounce it? Like there's like two different ways or whatever, but.
But
that sequence where we see Darkseid, right? I already know this just based off following Zach on Twitter and stuff. Is that the history lesson that we get in the theatrical cut, where Steppenwolf comes to Earth a long time ago, right, and fights Zeus and all this stuff, and you see a Green Lantern pop up.
Right.
It's Darkseid in this scene. So this is a history lesson when Darkseid was here.
So so the way back shot, or that's Darkseid, and then Steppenwolf is the enemy in Justice League, leading up to Darkseid. Right. Okay, that makes sense.
So that's the first version, or the early version, centuries ago that we see of Darkseid there.
That makes a lot of sense.
So Uxas means New Earth, apparently, and I'm reading this is from the DCFandom.com.
Not Fandome.
No, this is Fandom. Yeah. Darkseid is the ruler of the nightmare world, Apocalypse, and rules over the worlds that he has conquered. As a new god, he is a conceptual being that exists outside of normal universe in a realm called the Fourth World. Darkseid has been called the god of evil, and while there are few in the multiverse that could surpass him in his monstrousness. Okay, yeah. Darkseid is more accurately the god of tyranny. As such, he will not stop until he conquers all of creation and the entire multiverse.
It's not answering the question.
Yeah, I don't know. To this end, he seeks out the anti-life equation. We knew that already. A power that will allow Darkseid to turn anyone or anything into his mindless thrall, completely bound to his will.
It's fine. We can move on.
Yeah, there's literally no information.
Anybody can look this up.
Why is it? Yeah, it doesn't mean it didn't answer the. I'm sorry, that didn't answer the question. Anyway, I'll keep researching this. Do you guys have any other thoughts on the Snyder Cut? What we got out of that, the panel? There was like some brief interviews with some of the people who were like in the release of Snyder Cut movement.
They threw a few like fan questions at each of them. It was cool, honestly. Like, first of all, I need to rewatch Justice League.
No, you don't.
I do think I need to. Like, I don't remember it. I watched it once.
No, you don't.
I think you don't need to. I think you do Man of Steel, you do BVS, and then you do the.
I think as arduous as it's going to be, I'm going to do all of them right before this, just so that I know what I'm talking about. I want to be able to compare and contrast, right? And you have to
maybe I
have
can
a
be
fresh
maybe I
memory.
can be that angle, and you can be the angle who forgets the theatrical cut. Because it should be.
Okay, so you're already planning on doing all
I'm
that.
not. I'm never gonna watch the theatrical cut again. There's no.
Well, then
point.
why don't we switch those roles? What are you
No,
talking
because
about?
I've already seen it 5 times. I saw it 3 times in theaters. I own the
Damn.
Blu-ray. I
Actually-
dissected it to see what was at it, like what I thought Josh shot as opposed to Zach.
Sure.
I just think it's an abomination. Like there's no reason to go.
We didn't like the movie when it came out. I mean,
But just the scenario behind it, guys. It's just.
No, I
brutal.
know what you mean. I like honestly, it's just a personal thing. Like for context, I want to be able to see this.
But
He's like-
context for what though?
So if I watch the Snyder cut, it's effectively going to be a new movie to me. I'm
Right.
not going to be able to say, oh, they changed this or they did this better, because I won't be able to accurately reflect on the previous movie having not
but
seen
his
it in
I think
years.
Jeremy's perspective is
It
that
should
that
never
is the
happen.
changed version
Okay,
anyway.
so you want me to go in fresh, like this is a
Yeah,
new
like
movie.
watch
and,
Man
like,
of
This was
Steel,
the original
watch
one.
hey, you know what?
BVS.
Honestly, less work for me. I'm cool with
Yeah.
that.
Well, it's all Zach. Like,
No, you have to watch Batman. You
I
have to
don't know,
watch
it-
Man of Steel and BVS
yeah.
still.
Well, BVS is a slog, but
those, yeah.
Yeah.
But watch the Ultimate Edition for sure of that one. But yeah, it just doesn't make any sense to watch the massacre that's the theatrical cut. It just doesn't make it just doesn't make any sense. And
But
you
I
guys
want to
still
know the
aren't
fate
on that.
of that Russian family
No,
in that
it's
house.
not
I
gonna
need
be
to
in it.
know the fate of that
So
family.
leading up to this too, like people have been asking Snyder on Vero and Twitter, like, does Superman say, "Do you bleed?" It's like a social media account or like a platform that nobody really uses. They've been asking like, does Superman say, "Do you?"
Yeah, he's the only. He might
not
be the only
one.
person
the
that
joke's
uses it.
overdone, dude. Come on. Someone asked like, does Superman say, "Do you bleed?" He's like, no, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Which is in the theatrical cut. There's just all these things that people are like, did they do this? Did they do this? Like, no, like I don't know what you're talking about. There's just no reason to go to that like copy and paste, last minute homework, like fix this up so we can go to the direction we want to sooner. There's no reason to watch that movie. Zero. Like I don't understand why you think there would be. Think about what's
It's
happened.
very,
Think about the
he's very, very
Think
passionate.
about the movement that's happened here. The movie came out in 2017,
Yes, this
and
is
then it was
what
supposed to be
Snyder
over.
said.
And then that's not over because it was a major injustice that happened. There's
An
no
injustice. Interesting
there's
choice of
no
words.
reason to watch theatrical cut. It's a complete garbage cut. Think about
I've
what's-
never heard Jeremy this
well,
passionate about
no,
anything in my
because, like,
entire
it's
life.
not
This
a-
is
it's about-
amazing.
It's about I can see in both of your like, especially Julian's, just not the understanding of like what went down.
Rude, and you call me out like
Well,
that.
it's my honest opinion. So I just need you guys need to be aware that it shouldn't have never happened.
You think I don't understand what went down?
No, I don't.
But you think Dan has a better
I
understanding
think
of what
Dan
went down?
listens
I think
to
yeah,
me,
that's
but
what he was trying
yeah.
to say. Hey, fine. I don't especially want to. What I meant is that I wanted to rewatch it just so that
Have
again I had
context.
context and so I could speak with an informed opinion. I
Yeah,
guess, is what I was
I think
thinking.
we're at the point where I don't think we need that context. I think we need to see the continuation of the story from Man of Steel to now, where it goes, and then we'll have conversations on where.
Tell you what, here's what we'll do. I agree with you. So I won't rewatch it. I'll rewatch it after having
Yeah,
seen the
do
Snyder
that.
Cut.
Yeah, I'd be.
And then
way
I can
more
still
in
do
favor of
that
yeah.
compare thing, but just do it the other way around.
100%, yeah,
Right.
I agree with that.
Okay, so it's just a timing thing.
Well, it's about
Yeah.
what you have
Yeah.
in your mind
It's
going
just,
into the
in
movie,
my
right?
mind, it's not part of the equation. It shouldn't be. It's until after if you really want to go back.
Actually, yeah, the more I think about that, that's a very good point because it's the same as watching too many trailers before going into a movie and kind of having that preformed opinion of a movie before you go into it, right?
I don't know, I don't know if that's quite
I'm saying
the
it's
same.
similar. It's an analogy, right? Because they're similar things. This is like if you go in having just watched Justice League, you're going
Mhm.
to be almost hyper analyzing it and looking for the different edit points and whatever,
and
right?
you shouldn't be.
Because the
my
point is, you should be any movie. You should be able to just watch it and absorb it, enjoy it, and afterwards think about it. You don't need to be thinking about it too critically at the time. At least for your first viewing. That's always been my thing. So I do agree with you, Jeremy.
So I figured out what Euxis is. It's Darkseid's name before he becomes Darkseid. So, if that is his like pre-Darkseid form, it means it's like millennia ago.
Yeah,
is
like the
idea.
history lesson, right? Which took
Right.
place a long time ago.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know what the timeline is, which is why when I went to Euxis, it was just Darkseid's page on that wiki, and I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes more sense.
And also,
Um,
one notable scene too that was basically finished was the Flash is gonna be more relevant in this movie, and they show the Iris West scene, or just even
where he saves her life
right.
or something.
And that actress who was casted.
She
and
was
everything.
completely cut from the movie. Was she not even in the
Not
movie?
in
I
the
don't
movie
think
at
she's
all.
not even
Not in the movie
cut.
at all.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And just for people who don't know, we're getting Martian Manhunter in this movie, who was all set up all the way back in Man of Steel.
Yeah, no look at him. That's Lex something or the actor's name.
I forget his
Lighter something lighter or anyway the general from Man of Steel.
Green Lanterns are apparently going to be in this movie. The original post-credits scene.
There was Green Lanterns in the theatrical cut.
But like
only in that
one
flashback.
wasn't Snyder's Green Lantern. That was Joss Whedon's.
Right.
So wait, but are you assuming then that there's gonna be Green Lanterns like active in the movie, not in flashbacks?
The rumor is that it could be a type of post-credit sequence where Kilowog and Tomar Ray go to Bruce Wayne's lake house kind of place where he's at.
That little that square building.
And then that's kind of like the tease as to what's coming for the second movie or whatever. We also get a really cool shot of the another nightmare scene, which we have not been privy to, which was very relevant in BVS. And it shows the Justice League logo above the Hall of Justice or whatever, kind of crumbling, and then there's Aquaman's trident sticking out. But I think it's on purpose not to showcase all the surprises, because again we're getting over an hour more of content than we've never seen yet. So I think it was a good first showing. I love how they started off with Darkseid. I love the nod with the song, and I just can't wait until 2021.
I'm not as warm on it as you know, but I like a lot of the look of the footage that we did see for sure. Okay, so is there any do you have any other thoughts?
No, I think next is games, right?
Yeah, I was just double checking if there's anything else.
There's plenty of other things. It's just we're trying to.
Let's dive into this Chris Daughtry performance just a little bit deeper. I will mention just some highlights if we want to just maybe say what are something jumped out at you about DC Fandome, other than the name. Jim Lee's portfolio review. This is super short. It's a DC supervillain fan art. So he literally was on Skype with a guy who does fan art for DC stuff, and was walking him through okay, this is really good, but what if you put the light here? Yeah. Look at how this would affect the change of this. And it's so fascinating to see Jim Lee at work like that, because he is such a brilliant creative mind when it comes to visual storytelling. And it was so short. It was 5 minutes, but it was one of the coolest parts of the whole thing.
Yeah, this is kind of a new trend in terms of creators looking at up and comers doing what they do, and I've seen it in music where they do some sort of critique on it and give them advice. So this is the same type of thing with an artist talking to a legendary artist.
There is a weird element to it where it kind of feels it's I have the ability to tell you exactly, but it's it just feels a little weird, it's this person's learning, and then there's for you to come in and say that I'm doing it wrong or whatever. You know what I mean?
Completely volunteer.
But it's art. You know what I mean?
There's levels to everything. So you're making fan art. You're talking to someone who's
Who
in your
literally-
wheelhouse.
right.
You'd want to talk to. Probably want to get autographs for and have conversations with. And you get the opportunity for them to. It's not about critiquing your art. It's about going over
giving
your
you
art,
pointers.
giving you pointers.
Yeah.
Well, and the whole point here, though, is and with art,
Did you watch this
with
piece?
art in general, I did catch this piece. Is that there are no? It's not like there's a right or wrong answer. So he's not like a teacher grading a test. You know? He's looking at somebody's art and giving his own perspective on it. That's it. And it's, I'm sure, largely valuable to the artist themselves.
The part there's two. There's the first artwork was the Mr. Freeze one, and he's okay, well, you should, if I was doing this, or if I was looking at this, I would say, put the light here from the gun, and then it would shadow the back of him. And I was okay, that's really cool. And then the next one was the Joker one, and I thought that one was really interesting because there was the ha 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 lettering in the back, and he talked about how it's okay, everything when you're drawing anything has a meaning and has purpose. So it's if you're gonna put the lettering in the back, how does that affect the framing? What is it saying? How does that affect the overall look and feel of it? And he kind of dove into that one a lot longer. I wasn't sure if I agreed entirely with his critiques in that point, where it was he's like, well, you should have, maybe put a shadow on it or cast a shadow or like do the whole thing. I kind of liked the way it already looked, but again, art is already subjective anyway. But I just thought the whole thing was really, really cool. So that was a highlight for me. Was there anything that for you guys that was that around similar to that was interesting to you?
I mean, honestly, I'm sure it's recency bias, but the Batman stuff, the Batman trailer specifically, blew me out of the water. Like that was a very impressive trailer. We already talked it to death. I'm sorry I missed the Sandman stuff.
Well, it might be
I'll try to I'll YouTube it afterwards. But definitely for me, the highlight was the Batman trailer.
Okay. I also like the Titans panel where they just like talked about like their favorite like the fan moments, which is kind of fun.
About the series, because at the end of the day, like they're trying to sell this to audiences too, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you haven't, partaken in that. So, I mean, Daniel, you saw a bunch of new scenes there from season 2 because you haven't seen season 2.
That's true.
And you were probably, oh, that's kind of cool, right? So maybe it did a job on some people were like, yeah, maybe I'll check out season 2. And then it gave us a really cool sense of what season 3 is going to be like with its villain. Which has been teased for a long time with one of the actors who plays Jason Todd.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the Red Hood. So that's a really cool avenue to explore. Especially since all the characters are really like, they're really connected and like have developed relationships over the 2 seasons. So it'll be cool to see them react to one of their own being a villain.
So do you think I'm just spitballing here. So is it going to be the full Red Hood story? Like, is he going to die Lazarus Pit style, come back to life, and like be disillusioned, and like it go about it that way? I don't see them going about it. It has to be like more targeted to the Titans than it is, because that story we always know is more centered around Batman.
Yeah, I mean, all we know is that he felt disenfranchised with his team and he took off. So whatever answers he's looking for, whoever he finds, they're going to give him the answers he thinks he wants, and it's going to lead him down a path that's not the right path. It's going to lead him back to them, and it's going to be a vengeful type tale. Yeah, and we'll see how it plays out.
It'd be interesting to see if they add another Robin into the next season, because they've kind of done that. They've added like first the Robin, Robin was Dick Grayson in season 1, and he was disillusioned with it. And he left and became Nightwing, and then season 2 brings in Jason Todd. And he's kind of like unhinged, like he like beats the shit out of those cops and stuff. That might be the beginning. That might be in season 1.
I think he was in season 1.
Right. But like they really develop him more in season 2.
And the relationship between him and Dick.
His temper elevates season 2. Yeah. Well, I think it depends on the Batman character who, is he willing to get it? Does he need another sidekick? Is he even operational at this point? Like, we don't.
It doesn't seem. He's so old. Like, I really like the actor in Game of Thrones.
He's got some shining spots.
Ian Glenn.
I think he's good, but he's not good as Batman.
Well, the show is Titans. It's focused on them. Yeah. So to have a fully operational in his prime Batman just wouldn't make any sense. If they're, if they're taking on all the problems that are happening.
Right. So far the problems have been more like personal, which has always been kind of I found better with Titans, is that the villains and their stories are more like they're personal to the people in the Titans, like those characters. Whereas Batman will take it's about Gotham or the world or whatever.
Sure.
These stories were about them. And in season 2, it had like Deathstroke. It's like there was a very like personal story between the Titans and Deathstroke, right? Not that I don't think season 2 is particularly great. I think it kind of dropped the ball in certain moments, but it had some really amazing moments too at the same time. So you kind of hope that season 3 kind of tightens it up a little bit, finds that kind of course.
Tightens it up.
Holy shit, you're right.
I just think the goal here was to take Batman out of the equation. The Batman of this story is Dick Grayson, who's left the mantle of Robin behind. He's creating the new one, which is Nightwing. He's in the suit. But yeah, like I think as fans of the comic series and the timeline, like it would just make sense if Batman was still operational while Nightwing is coming into his own.
Right.
But we're just not going to get that.
But I mean, they left on better terms in the comics. Yeah. Right? The traditional history of the characters is different than it is being presented in Titans, right?
Well, I think most versions of the like transition from Robin to Nightwing usually have some sort of conflict between Robin and Batman.
Well, it was
Yeah.
always we just didn't know how it was going to work out, right? Season 1 always implied that Batman was there. He was behind
Yeah.
the scenes. We saw him from the back of his head, and we
He
talked
was-
about him and all this stuff. And
There was literally a whole
Yeah.
nightmare sequence with
Jason
him.
Todd
like, beating
was
the
the
shit out of
current
people.
Robin with Batman,
Yeah.
talking about how badass it is and all this
Yeah, he
stuff.
gets to drive the Batmobile.
And that led me to believe that
Yeah.
like they're just not going to touch that character. He's always just going to be this mysterious figure. But they went all in on season 2 and said, no, he's going to be here, but it's going to be in a different way to where he's training Nightwing in a weird mental
like how
sense.
to like be a team leader essentially. And it's also not clear like how much of it is like in his head and versus like
It's definitely
real.
a lot in his head because Batman's
Yeah.
a lot of wonky things here.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I feel like he's dancing in one scene.
Yeah,
He
it's
does
some weird
this
stuff.
at one point.
What's that? Like the peace sign across
Yeah,
the
just
eyes?
like it's like Adam West Batman, like in the,
Yeah.
in the 60s or something like that.
Jesus.
Very psychedelic. I don't know. It's like I like Ian Glenn. His accent's not great. We talked about this when we reviewed this season. His accent's inconsistent, and
They don't even mention him here. He's not even on the panel. So
he's not even exactly. So it's always. I think we've always found it's like a lot of these shows, including the Arrowverse and some of the others, where if Batman's presence is often looms a large shadow, right? You're constantly, if you're Robin and all these other characters, like you said, have that, you have an operational Batman. It's like, where is he? What's he doing? That's all anyone asks. So it's like it's probably best to kind of separate it. But like now you've opened the Pandora's box. Batman is a character in the show, played by an actor that we know. So
Should've never
you kind of have to address it. Well, what would you have done different?
Well, I said a long time ago, I would have liked this to be the secondary type scenario series behind
in the
Justice League.
DCEU.
Yeah. So where like so they talk about Batman and then like let's say we visit Batman on HBO Max like with Justice League.
Right.
It is Ben Affleck.
Right.
Like don't have them cross over initially for a long time. Justice League is on a way different level. Let them do
And just
their thing.
try to
Yeah.
try not to
Flesh out,
step on
we're
any lines
fleshing
or
out the ground
whatever.
level
Yeah.
of
Yeah, I
Gotham.
mean, it's been done. Like Teen Titans comics, it's not like the Justice League doesn't exist,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Young Justice, that
Same
show
thing.
works
Yeah.
perfectly, and the Justice League is a huge part of it,
Mhm.
right? Or they're doing their own.
But they're
thing.
also usually involved in a lot of the stuff that.
Well, what it was is,
later
like,
in the-
they
later
were
on.
the Young Justice team is sent on like secret missions.
Right,
and
they're
the
the
Justice League
Black
is, like,
Ops.
the big
Yeah.
media mission.
I
Well,
just
they
think
make it-
going
that's
forward,
the
it
whole,
would have been
like,
really
political
cool
thing in that
that
show.
whatever future Justice League content they make with those characters or actors or whatever, if Nightwing, the actor, like
Yeah.
just popped up. He's in his
Mhm.
Nightwing suit that we know and are familiar with. We know how he became Nightwing.
And well, we know with that with this like multiverse thing that can happen,
Yeah.
kind of.
it'd be,
so
it'd be a rearranging of sorts, but yeah, it could happen.
well, we know that Flashpoint's coming, so there's going to be a rearranging anyway. So we don't know how that's going to all play out, but it sounds like they're less concerned about the like straight up
Yeah, straight line
canon
continuity.
exactly. So there's a chance. I don't know. Anyway,
We'll see what happens. It's cool that they're leaning into the multiverse thing though, because like you can imagine, and I know this is wishful thinking, but at a point in time where we finally earn a crisis, an actual crisis
Mhm.
event that has movie and TV characters converging from all these different universes in
It's-
one massive event.
it's Warner Brothers' wet dream. What are you talking
well, I mean,
about?
no, but like, but think about how mind blowing that would have been when
Yeah.
crisis,
that's-
when the first
yeah.
crisis happened.
But
Right.
Flashpoint is going to be a mini version of that. We're getting Michael Keaton's Batman back.
Yeah.
And Cape and Cowl.
yeah,
Mhm.
so we'll see what the reception's like for that, I guess.
I mean, and they've obviously, like we said, they've played around with this on the television side too. But with HBO Max, I think there is a bit of a sea change where there's one place to
Yes.
go for Warner Brothers
And
Television.
it's
It is,
exclusive.
HBO
and you're gonna
Max.
want to go there because they're going to get the right creators and the right teams.
Right.
Yeah.
and they're gonna have the money.
and really cool content.
They have that. By the way, they revealed that new logo. It was like
Warner
Warner
Max,
Max. It's a really cool logo, and like I'm not entirely clear what Warner Max is. Is that like a production company?
Well,
Is it like-
like Walter Hamada said? It's where everybody like converges. Like that's where
Right. So, but is Warner Max is obviously separate from Warner Brothers.
Well,
would
because
those be
HBO
separate
is
from-
so many different things, right? It's not
Yeah,
just
I know.
Warner Brothers and superheroes.
So exactly. So it's also not HBO. So
Yeah.
it's like Warner Max is a production company, I
Yes.
guess, for
Superheroes.
HBO Max. No, it doesn't. I don't think it's for superheroes because then you would think it would be DC branded. Don't you think?
Yeah, maybe.
It would be like DC Max or something. Which isn't there already like a Max line in the comics that's like darker and like more
That's Black
R-rated? Oh, okay, yeah. I think it used to be something Max back in the day. Anyway, let's move on to the games. I think we've covered this enough. 2 game announcements. There
knew they were
was, yeah, we do, and they were teased. I think pretty well. The weird thing with the we'll start with Gotham Knights. The weird thing with that was, and there's both actually, they're kind of intertwined because obviously the backstory is okay. So Warner Brothers Montreal, or Warner Studios, whatever it's called, Montreal,
WB Montreal.
WB
Yeah.
Montreal.
They made Batman Arkham Origins.
Arkham Origins, right?
Was it? It was a third. It was a third at the time.
Yeah.
Right, but
Always,
it was a prequel.
Yeah, prequel, and they just didn't want to have in the same wheelhouse as Rocksteady. Rocksteady really wanted to maintain that their trilogy was going to be their
Right.
games.
But Warner Brothers wanted to make more money, so they
Yeah,
made
and
another-
to the
and they
credit,
literally
the game,
reused- yeah.
I think it was good. Like I don't think it was like, oh, this is a piece of shit or anything like that. Like
It felt like it was. I think a lot of criticism at the time was that it wasn't really doing anything new.
So what it was, it's a solid game, and it does a lot of new things, but there are some things that it borrowed from Arkham City.
Well, it
Oh,
used
yeah,
the
it's
same
the same
map.
world.
I think is the same map.
Yeah, but
as Arkham City.
It leaned into the detective
It did do that, yeah.
skills and surveying of areas to where you could uncover clues and whatnot.
That was cool.
It was more like the mechanics. Like it did something like, in Arkham City you have a freeze bomb because you face Mr. Freeze, and this is an origin story. So obviously Mr. Freeze isn't
You have
active
a glue
yet.
bomb.
So you have a glue bomb, but it's the exact same
Yeah.
animation. And the
I think
exact
is
same
that the one they introduced the shock, like fists?
Yeah, there's a
No,
there's
that
a
was
character
in
created
Arkham City.
for the no the character was created for Arkham Origins, the Executioner.
But
And then you
Batman
steal
had
it-
the-
you steal
Batman
his-
had those in Arkham City though.
the
They
shock
did. Look it
gauntlets.
up right now.
I don't think so, dude.
Look it up right
Look
now.
at the Wii. The
Ooh,
Wii
put it in the book, man.
Look at the Wii U version has him literally with the shocker gauntlets
Shock
on the cover of the Wii U version.
Gauntlets. Arkham
We
Origins.
don't need to look it up right now.
I'll you guys go ahead.
Well,
but basically,
either way,
Arkham.
Yeah, we have 2 studios making the Batman games, right? Whereas W Montreal is a secondary studio. I think that Arkham Origins has aged better over time in terms of what it was trying to do. I think there was really good cinematics and like story elements in that game that we're not giving credit to.
Right.
That I think if we revisited, we'd be aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying that because I recently watched some gameplay sequences and some cutscenes, and I was like pretty
Yeah.
impressed.
The cutscenes are great. The
it.
gameplay's great. Like fighting Deathstroke
Yeah.
is amazing, and it's not so in Arkham Knight.
Right.
Deathstroke's in Arkham Knight, and it's just like a tank
Right.
battle. So Origins does that very well.
And so with WB Montreal, they've actually been teasing through their Twitter probably almost like a year ago with like really
it was like a-
cryptic messaging
It was so
that was
weird.
not easily decoded, but was quickly like discovered as like a Court of Owls type.
You can never miss. You can't underestimate how quickly the internet will figure out what your quote unquote mystery
But that was the
is.
point, right? They were building
Yeah.
hype way back when with
Yeah.
weird imagery, and everyone was like, "Oh, Court of Owls, Court of Owls, Court of Owls." That was it.
And everyone thought it would be a traditional Batman
Yeah.
game. Yeah.
And it ended there, and then we still didn't hear anything from Rocksteady.
So there's the wrinkle here is that Arkham Origins teased Suicide Squad,
with Amanda
right?
Waller,
So at the
Deathstroke.
end, there's a post-credit scene in Arkham Origins, right? That was a Suicide Squad game. So the rumor is that that Warner Brothers Montreal
working on one.
was working on the Suicide Squad game,
Right.
and at some point that switched
to
over
Rocksteady.
to Rocksteady, and then they started, and W Montreal started working on this Arkham Knights game. Did you think they swapped projects? Like, did they were working on Arkham Knights and like because Arkham Knights, which is
Gotham
the
Knights.
the reason. Oh, sorry, yeah. It would be if it was called Arkham Knights, then for sure Rocksteady would be making it. But would also be just an S at the end of the name
Yeah.
team's game. But the interesting again, this is so wrinkly. There's so many wrinkles. Is that that game that the Gotham Knight game starts with Batman's dead, which is how the last game ends with Arkham Knight ends with Batman dying. So it's like it seems like that would be a logical next step. It's like, okay, now you're going to take control of all the Bat family,
Right.
and then continue the story
Which
that
is
way.
what the trailer is, right? It's him
Right.
announcing his death to
But
each
it's
of them
not the
individually.
same world. That's a different. It's not the Arkham verse. So it's like they completely flipped jobs.
Yeah.
It's so weird. it's a crazy thing. I honestly think it's very strange to me. But
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can tell both projects have a lot of they're both 4-person sort of squad-based action games, right? With the same general mechanics.
yeah, I mean, I
So,
think
like-
as far as we know it's co-op, but I don't know if it's 4-person co-op. It might be 2-person co-op
Yeah.
in Gotham Knights. I
Maybe.
don't know.
It kind of looked like 4. I don't know. It's hard to
So
say.
I found out the answer to the shock gloves. Shock gloves were introduced in Origins, and then were a addition to the armored edition for the Wii U.
Oh, okay.
for
That's why I
Arkham
said,
City.
okay.
Yeah.
That's
so we were
Yeah.
both- we were
yeah,
both-
that's very strange though.
So we were both correct.
Yeah.
That's so weird how they would even implement that into the Wii U edition. Like, so it just looks.
Did you call him the Executioner or the
Electrocutioner. That
Electrocutioner?
makes much more sense. I did call him the Executioner, so I was wrong there.
But
Uh,
that's a brilliant name.
But either way, we get a pretty stunning trailer from W Montreal where they set up the whole thing
Yep.
with Bruce Wayne, Batman is dead.
Code Black.
Very reminiscent of the Avengers game, set up
Mhm.
where Captain America dies.
This living game thing is really
Games-
starting to
games as a
service. Yeah, really starting to piss me off.
That's the model, man. That's what works for
There's
these
so
people.
much money involved, so much development time that it's at the point where it's not worth it to shell out a game that's going to be forgotten in a month's time.
A month, yeah.
So, especially with this type of IP, it's like, why wouldn't you want to just keep it going? So, that's just the world we live in now. And it was pretty impressive, though. I think we can all agree that Gotham Knights looks like a very good game.
It
So far.
definitely does.
It's
and,
pretty for sure.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with the model. It's just that there have been some submissions with that same model that have not really been flushed out.
One
the
by
way we want.
Bioshock, or BioWare particularly.
Yeah.
is not
And-
talked about.
But there's one cool sequence in the gameplay aspect, which is really cool that they decided to show like a bunch of minutes of gameplay,
Right.
where you're playing Barbara Gordon, and all of a sudden Robin just like pops in. So to me, it's like, hey, if I sign in and I see you playing,
Yeah.
I can hop into your game as Robin, and we can go and
Yeah.
take out these.
Which I think is also something that the Suicide Squad game
Yes.
guys mentioned, which is that there's 4 players. You can play it single player and take control of any of the characters at any time, or you can have people join your game and play co-op in the game with you, and play through the story that way.
Yep.
So that's. I think that was like an idea that people had a long time. Like you could just jump in and out of people's games. Was like a cool idea that was never really executed. This seems like it's like, okay, we're actually going to do that
kind of happened
in the
in
next gen.
GTA a little bit.
in the GTA Online setting.
Well, maybe I'm just referring to the story mode where you can there's 3 characters.
Swap
right?
characters.
You can, go
Right.
to each character whenever you want. They're not obviously
Mhm.
playing together, but
Right, but no one, you couldn't. What you couldn't do, and the idea was, imagine if you're playing GTA and you're playing as one of the characters, and your buddy logs in and just starts playing as the other character, right, in your world. That would be what they're kind of pitching here, right? And then I guess the other thing with Suicide Squad is that it's an open world, is what they said again, which I guess is kind of true to what they've been doing since Arkham City, which has been a somewhat open world. Arkham Asylum was a more traditional Metroidvania type,
dungeons.
and then now they're opening up again, but this time it's in Metropolis instead of
Yeah, I think it's cool. We
Gotham.
get a Batman-centric game, right, with Gotham Knights, and then we get Rocksteady breaking away from that mold, but still in the same continuity.
They're
But
in the
you're
Arkham
not playing
continuity,
Batman
yeah.
anymore. You're playing a really cool cast of characters and their villains. And
It's also unclear when in the timeline it is.
No, what he said specific to the Suicide Squad game, he said it's a continuation of the Arkham universe.
But
That's the term that he used. So
Right.
you have to analyze that.
But you also have to analyze the trailer and what the information that the trailer presents, which my hunch on this is that it's a prequel to
So
those
no,
events.
I think that's
that
impossible.
depends if Batman's alive in this game, right?
Well,
And also, is it with certainty that Batman is gone once you complete Arkham Knight?
I don't know, but
he fakes his death.
Yeah. So then,
well, there's also at the very end of Arkham Knight, there's the sequence with the Nightmare Batman, right, with those criminals. It's like, haven't you heard? Batman's dead, right? And he's standing on the roof, and then it goes like the fear toxin thing. We don't know if that's with Bruce or it's someone else taking up the mantle. We don't know.
But with regards to Suicide Squad, it has to be after the Arkham games. It cannot be before.
Why?
Harley
It includes
Quinn,
Harley Quinn.
right?
Is Harley Quinn she's introduced
She's in those games. It
Yeah.
includes a version of Harley Quinn that we've not seen before. So she wasn't a part of the Suicide Squad before
We don't
the
know that.
Arkham games. It also introduces this concept of Brainiac and the Justice League. There's no way in hell that would have not been mentioned in any of the Arkham games.
Well, I mean, you can.
They
if-
mention
with prequels, you can always just well, it just never came up. It could be one of those kind
but
of
this is a world-ending thing that
Right.
just never came up. Brainiac attacks and took over the Justice League. Also, the Justice League is a concept in this game.
Right.
They talk about killing the Justice League. So how could that have happened before Batman started operating? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, Arkham Asylum picks up years into Batman's career,
Yeah,
so
they don't mention the Justice League.
they
once.
don't. Again, but it's one of those things where these are pure Batman stories at
Yeah,
they're
it's
very
comic books
like
at the end of the day.
personal
No,
things.
I mean you're right.
you
Like,
know?
I guess you could try to write around it. I'm saying it's going to be clunky and it's
And
probably the wrong.
And I think they mentioned Superman a couple times in those
they
games.
allude to the concept of a rumor of Superman
Yeah.
in Arkham
There's like
City.
a Ferris air like canister too somewhere.
There's a
Yeah, yeah.
couple.
There's a bunch
things.
of like little
Yeah,
cameos,
Lex
kind of
Corp
things
stuff.
like that, little
What about
Easter eggs.
for Gotham Knights? What if Batman isn't dead? What if that is just a ploy that he's using with his
Well,
family?
you think is fucking Captain America dead in the Avengers game? I mean, no,
Probably
right?
not. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I just think with the Court of Owls, it'd be really cool that maybe he does that, so they do some sort of battle on the outskirts while he's infiltrating the Court of Owls in a deeper sense, just like the comic books.
Mm.
Or the Court of Owls has captured and indoctrinated
Right.
him, right? And turned him
His
into one
own
of the
talent,
talents,
too.
and then they have to rescue him and bring him back. Something like that.
I don't know. I
But
saw
as
someone.
I'm certain Batman's going to be a part of the game and not dead in the game.
Right.
Well, you say that, but they also mention in some of the commentary and discussions that they're saying that they wanted to create a world where they didn't have Batman to rely on, and that these are characters that have to fend for themselves
But
now.
that still rings
Right.
rings true with the plot. If
you can bring him
later.
in, if you can
Yeah.
bring it out later, yeah. Hey, you guys, you did it. You fended for yourself, but I'm back now. It did seem, by the way, that they're staying with the same voice actor that they used from Arkham Origins for Batman. And even if he is dead, I'm sure there'll be a lot of voice notes and stuff like from him in the game. I don't love that voice actor for Batman.
It's okay. It just looks really good though. Like it just,
The game looks very good, yeah.
and then with
great, kind of like cartoon. It's a little bit more cartoony in color, a lot of brighter colors than I think the Arkham games have.
You're just leaning
Yeah.
into that multiplayer
Mhm.
type arena. But
Someone, for some reason, Robin can teleport or
Yeah,
something.
I don't know what that's all about.
we'll go back to that.
Damn, they have
For
superpowers now.
Suicide Squad, we didn't get any gameplay at all. We got some talk of it
Ugh,
after.
that's
But
so
we
annoying.
got a really funny trailer. We all
Yeah.
audibly laughed
was a
at
great
certain,
trailer.
certain parts.
Man, King Shark is a funny character.
And
They figured him out.
It's very minimal what they showed. Essentially, like in terms of we know Brainiac's at the forefront of why Superman is doing whatever he's doing,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and we don't see any other Justice League members. We don't know if they're obviously going to appear. We're going to be
Right.
fighting.
Well,
An
they didn't
evil
say kill
Wonder
Superman.
Woman
It's
or an
called
evil Green Lantern. Evil like that's so appealing to me.
Right.
And they're just saving all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
But
exciting.
I think I would have liked to have seen some gameplay. Like you talked around it. You talked
Yeah.
about like the ability to do this and switch between
But then
characters,
isn't
like
there
and all these
two-
different new abilities. Like, tell me.
Well, I think already there's going to be a bunch of comparisons with the two games and which one looked better, which one had a better showing. I think if you leaned into the gameplay on that one as well, I think there would have been even more comparisons.
video game.
Like, which one do I buy? Like, am I only going to buy one or am I buying both? Like,
Well, they're not going to come out the same day, right? So it's like you get the impression that that Gotham Knights is further along in development,
yeah,
and
just
that
the gameplay, yeah.
they're likely sooner in release. And then did they give us a release date or a year, a window, anything? I don't recall.
2022
2022.
for Suicide Squad is what
Right.
it said in the trailer. Yeah,
That's so far away. But
the
like,
other one didn't say. If I don't remember.
it's next
actually.
year. It'll probably be next year. It looks like it's pretty far along. I
think
don't.
it's 2021.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think they'll probably space out enough that they'll likely not, but they'll always be compared against each other. That
Yeah.
just like Arkham Origins was always compared to Arkham
I just think
City.
it's just like too on the nose to be able to compare if you just see two Batman or just DC video games that are so similar in terms of
Wow,
four-player like co-op, you take out enemies.
Clearly, there was a directive from the Warner Brothers executive team.
I just think
this
that
is how we're
I just
doing
think
games
that
now.
The trailer for Suicide Squad, in terms of their goal with it, was so strong that they didn't necessarily need to show gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, but then they talk so much about gameplay. Like, there's one element, like one specific thing that stood out to me is like he's like, we've come up with all these really creative, way more like exciting means of like locomotion and be able to travel to the world. It's like
That's
you could literally fly in the other game. I don't.
Well, I think that's the
I don't
Comic-Con
know.
experience, though, is that when
Right.
you go to panels, you talk with the creators. They don't have to show you everything. They're just
That's
having
right.
conversations on what they're working on and
Yeah.
what their goals are.
Right.
And now we're aware of it, and then we wait.
Yeah, it's all about building excitement, right? So it's
Mm.
really about having these people who are passionate about what they're doing.
Yeah, the
and
next
speak on it.
the next thing will be a big gameplay reveal at some point in the next little bit.
Also, turns out Captain Boomerang can also teleport to his boomerang. I don't know if he caught that in the trailer. That's all he was doing the entire trailer. He was throwing his boomerang around and then teleporting to where it was.
So he's the boomerang.
Yeah. He throws it and he always comes back.
I heard this is a really dumb joke, but someone said like anything's a boomerang if you throw it up.
That is an exceptionally dumb joke.
Yeah, but it's like it's kind of true though, right?
No.
Yeah,
No.
it comes back to you, and that's all that a boomerang. Anyway,
Yeah, but throw a real boomerang. You think it's going to come right back to you every single
no,
time?
I don't know how to throw a boomerang to make it come back to me. I don't know. It's supposed to, right? That's the idea.
Yeah, they do.
Unless it hits Superman on the side of the head and then just falls down.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. that line from King Shark literally like had me in stitches. Like that's so funny. He saved that pilot.
The mighty Superman has come to save. It's good. It's a knock on like Golden Age comics because that's how like what's his name Perry White or
Yeah.
Jimmy Olsen would be like,
Right.
look, the mighty Superman has come to save the day.
Did we know the title of the game before that part? Did Will Arnett say it?
Yeah, I think it was leaked
Oh, okay.
about
I
about
know
a
that
week
already.
ago.
Yeah, I just meant in terms of
like official announcements.
Because it
No,
would have been funny if we didn't know anything and then
Right.
that line happens, right? Because
Right.
we're on his, we would think the same thing. That Superman's
Yeah,
here, but then
right.
it turns out to be evil.
There's a lot of Harley Quinn in the DC world these days, but most of it's pretty good. So I'm kind
She's a popular character for a reason, and it is working thus far. So
I'm trying to think of like I didn't love Birds of Prey.
I haven't seen it yet. So
I don't think
And
it's terrible. I don't think it's terrible.
screenwriter is
She's
doing The
good in it,
Flash.
but yeah.
But I
she-
loved what she had to say. Like I think
Right.
she's.
But did you think it was a script problem in that movie?
I think it was. I think I'm just missing the tone or something. Like I
didn't
wasn't
hit for you.
expecting like
It's-
yeah. I just
It's a Harley Quinn movie. I mean, it says it's quote unquote Birds of Prey. It's a Harley Quinn movie. It's her movie. She's the best part of the movie, right? All the other characters are kind of like
yeah
not nearly as interesting.
right. And I think they were just trying to make them interesting and like a bunch of stuff surrounding it, right? With a female cast, all that stuff. It just didn't hit the right notes for me. But I don't know.
Maybe it wasn't for you.
Maybe it wasn't.
Yeah. Did you like the element of the breakfast sandwich?
No, hated it.
You didn't like
Hated it.
that because that worked for me, and I thought that was like I think people who
There's
like
always
that
certain
seem to
things,
like
right?
the movie.
So it's the Luke throwing the lightsaber over his shoulder. That doesn't work
Right.
for you. You don't like the fucking movie.
Right.
yeah.
Everyone I
don't.
talk to, like certain friends of mine I haven't seen in a while
Right.
from my work, it's like they just see it as a sign of disrespect as soon as he
There
throws it
is
over the shoulder.
there is a
It's garbage.
a deleted scene. There's a deleted scene from The Last Jedi that is I think would have helped like soothe that feeling amongst fans if it was in the like theatrical cut. So there's a scene where Luke is training Rey up on his little like rock perch, right? And he's like pointing out that like, hey, look at these like invading creatures from another island. They're coming to like pillage the village of these like caretakers, right? And she's like, I gotta go save them. I'm gonna go save them. So she like sprints across the water and then she like busts through the door and it turns out they're all having a party. It's actually just like returning fishermen. And it's like it's played for laughs because it's like she's clearly like on a mission and they're like woo, but then she's pissed at Luke because she's like, you told me that they were coming to like raid and pillage, and he's like well, kind of like a certain point of view, basically his line. And then she has her line after that is basically that, and he's saying like, isn't your friends need need action. They need people who are willing to do stuff. Not a dead religion that I'm representing, right? That the Jedi trainings would have told you not to do anything, to just stand here and do nothing, right? And
worse.
and then no.
Maybe it's the way it's being presented, but that sounds horrible.
Right, and then he's and her answer is basically like, you might not like the old Luke that I respect, right? The quote unquote, like, kind of taking the role of the fans in that position. You might not care about that, but I do, and people out there do, and we want, and like she's basically calling him to action, saying like, be the Luke that we knew you to be. He eventually does do that in the movie. They throw it out.
Eventually in the
right,
movie. So
right,
it
but
wouldn't have changed anything because.
But I think calling it out specifically like that would have helped, because clearly the subtext was not picked up by a lot of people, right?
And so that the ongoing conversation over the Last Jedi
right continues.
No, hold the fuck. Hang on a second. Sorry, I know this is a DC show, but you did this now.
Yeah, all right.
So you're saying that people who don't like that movie are missing subtext from that scene where he throws the lightsaber behind them?
Absolutely, they are.
You think that's we're just not getting it? We didn't understand.
Absolutely,
and that
yes.
deleted scene would have made you think back to when he threw it over his shoulder. Like, that
the
makes
error
sense.
of my ways.
Well, it's like he doesn't.
That is ridiculously arrogant. That's insane.
I don't think it's not arrogance. It's how it's presented in the movie. The movie's presenting it
it's
that he is turned away from the teachings of the Jedi. He thinks that the Jedi itself is a failure, and that the weapon represents that, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't.
No. Dan wanted to light that sucker up right then and there.
Yeah.
It's
whoa.
There's no return to it. It's done.
Right.
We don't need to talk about what should or shouldn't have happened. What I will say, though, as someone who didn't enjoy that movie, and that was one of the reasons, not the only reason I didn't enjoy it, it's not because I lack the subtext or understanding of the subtext. Right? It was very clear.
Well, you might not agree with it, but so you got
I don't like the direction that the movie's been taken in. It doesn't mean that I don't understand what's being presented to me. It means that doesn't track with my understanding of the characters or the story thus far.
Right. Okay. And that's fair, and that's kind of similar to what people say on the internet, along lines of like they're basically saying that's not my Luke. That's what a lot of people say.
That's what Daniel's saying.
That's exactly. And
but then he gets to that point towards the end, but they still can't figure it out.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. It's okay, Dan. It's gonna be okay. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I might cut that out of the actual episode.
No. That's it.
I might cut
this
that
all
out.
stays in.
Any more questions here? What's going on?
No, Marcos basically mentions that that it's basically back to the DC games. It's basically Marvel Ultimate Alliance for DC stuff. I don't think it's quite like that.
This
Marvel
looks
Ultimate
more
Alliance
fun,
is
though, because it has the Arkham,
right. The combat.
The combat,
Yeah.
the gameplay.
Yeah, Ultimate Alliance
hopefully it does.
is fun, but it's kind of designed around like simple combat and unlocking characters and like new characters and character combinations. That's kind of what that's about. This is the same. It's gonna be the same characters, but it's more about the actual combat and the storytelling. Also, I don't know how well the storytelling is in those games.
And the Avengers doesn't really look like it's
Ultimate
open world
Alliance
or
game.
anything either.
Ultimate Alliance actually is the story is great. The cinematics are great. That's all really nice.
Did you play the new one for the Switch?
No, I haven't. I am playing the beta of the Marvels game or the Marvel game that's to be released.
Right.
The Avengers game.
That's maybe closer in line with what this
is.
It
seems like it. I would say so far it's a beta, but the gameplay hasn't been as satisfying as I would like.
Everybody's saying.
They're just. It's just like button mashing. It's just square, triangle a lot.
Well, that's kind of what Arkham's combat is a little bit.
There's more to it though. There's more to it.
Yeah.
And so far with the Marvel game, it doesn't seem to be like there's character trees, but the characters don't really change, or skill trees rather. The characters don't really seem to change too much. I would like more, like if I'm playing as Captain America versus the Hulk, I would want it to feel much more different than it does. But again, it's a beta, so hopefully they flesh those things out. And again, for the DC games, it's the same idea. It's a 4-person squad. You can have people jumping in and out. I would hope that they consider that kind of stuff as well.
Well, I think if the thing with the Marvel thing is, I think they're introducing new characters constantly. Like they're bringing in Spider-Man, like all these other characters, right? This doesn't seem like it's about the character, adding characters, unlocking characters.
Which one?
It's more
Arkham
about
Knight or
Arkham, both of them. Arkham Knight.
Suicide Squad will be.
Gotham
You think?
Knights?
I don't think so.
It won't have a giant roster, but it should have more than 4 characters, I would imagine.
I
don't know if it will.
I think if the future of video games is as a service, you have
Right.
to continue it. So if you have Suicide Squad, why would you only stop at 4 members?
Well, I'm saying maybe the core game is those
Yeah, I
4,
can
and then
see
you
that.
have like expansions
Especially
or like
since they relied on the 4
new-
of them
right.
very heavily
in the
from
trailer.
trailer, where they got the voice actors back to play off Will
Right.
Arnett.
Right. The Will Arnett thing was an interesting choice. I don't think a good choice.
Yeah, it wasn't that good.
It's tough because
Except
like
for
we're trying to.
Fandomers.
Yeah, that's a
gave us
very
that.
good. That's the best line of the night. Well, welcome, fellow fan domers. It's hard to compare these 2 or 3 games, I guess, because we don't have enough information about the DC stuff quite yet. If it is more in that like traditional games of service method, where it's like you're gonna unlock new characters, and it's less of a distinct gameplay as it is about the characters and like grinding and like getting new loot. Which again, this also doesn't seem like it's like neither of these games seem to be about like looter shooter, combat type games.
They're being the Avengers is being compared to Destiny more so, which I
Yeah.
never played. Daniel's
Yeah.
played, so I don't know if there's any similarities there that you can see.
There are in this, like, again, it's just a beta, right? But there are in the sense of, you equip a squad. It feels like there's going to be raids, like some of the more difficult missions. You probably need to team up with some friends and bring them along on your raid. I guess you can have a PC version of that, but I doubt that'll be effective. Outside of that, yeah, it's like Destiny in the sense that you're in a mini mission that's outside of the top world, right? So you have your hub world where you can, I'm assuming you'll go to like Shield headquarters at one point. Where I'm at in the beta, it's like this old antiquated sort of Tony Stark facility that has like quarters for all the Avengers, and you
That
have
was
a
a
map.
helicarrier.
It's not where I'm at anyways.
Okay.
I saw a funny tweet talking about the Gotham Knights, where they're like, Batman is not actually dead. He's just exclusive to the PS5 version.
That might be the best kind of joke you could tell about that game. That
It
is
only had
very
like 200
good.
likes too. I'm like, this is gonna blow up. Like,
This
that's
is
hilarious.
it needs to be retweeted like a million times. That's so funny. The main character. Oh man. Okay. Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts about this stuff? I guess for me, Suicide Squad is the biggest question mark because it is Rocksteady. We've been wondering forever what they're doing.
It was rumored that they were working on a Justice League game though for a long time. So
Right.
it is very cool that they kind of swapped that. Like, hey, let's not
What if
try
they're
to
the
like,
bad guys?
Create gameplay to where you're playing these gods essentially.
Right.
You're playing the bad guys who aren't even up to snuff with those characters.
Mm-hmm.
So it creates more of a challenge and a team dynamic to take down Superman and the other members.
Right. I mean, there's also this kind of like piece at the end where like they basically said, "Are we doing this?" And like they're like, "No." They're like, "We're not doing this." That's like, what's the motivation other than, hey, you have a bomb in your head, right? To go up against Superman, which is just as much of a suicide mission.
Well, if
Right.
they don't, Brainiac, whatever he's doing, he's just gonna fuck everything up. So
Right.
they have no choice.
But
in
like
that regard.
they don't. None of those characters seem to really be like, "Oh, not the world,"
well, including them though, right? Like,
Yeah,
they
I
won't be able
guess.
to thrive or live or whatever.
Yeah, they've never been altruistic, and it seemed like because you're right, Jeremy, they mentioned that they're going to abandon the mission.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see the game switching the narrative to the point that they become altruistic and try to do it for the right
Yeah.
reasons, right? So I don't know how you get around that.
Because now you have a problem with the kind of like a
Motivation.
break in what the player's motivation is versus what the character's motivation is, and I think that can be, which is, by the way, something you could call back to Last of Us Part 2, where I think there's a distinct break between those two things in certain parts of that game,
But that's
and that
it's a-
creates
yeah.
a dissonance.
That's
No,
no, that's
there.
not the same thing. That's not the same thing at all.
We don't. I don't. We're
That's
speculating.
two-
We don't
that's
know
just
enough
two
about.
different perspectives.
Yeah.
We don't know if that's gonna necessarily happen.
What you're saying is that Okay, so in Last of Us, it is at least consistent with the characters. This would be inconsistent with
Right.
the DC
No.
character.
What I'm saying is you would have to.
You as a player don't. It's like yes, you don't really matter. You're like it's a linear story. You're experiencing a story. You're participating in a story, but it's not an RPG. You don't get to make
No,
those decisions. There's no-
exactly. That's what I'm saying. But like, you still, and we had this conversation with The Last of Us. You still are playing it. So if there is a lack of motivation from the actual characters in the game, right? Again, this is all skeptical. Like we have no
Sure.
idea. But if there's a lack of motivation from the characters in the game, then you have to provide that motivation yourself by just like by carrying on through the missions. It's like it feels a little bit more forced, you know. But we don't know yet. It's hard to say. I think we've got to play as Harley Quinn before in some of the other Arkham games.
Yep.
This will be the first time we're playing as any of these other characters, but these characters will have very different play styles than any of the others. You find another funny tweet here? Yeah.
I mentioned Alana Pierce before. I guess we weren't recording, but
Right.
she tweeted in referencing to the new Batman trailer. She goes, "Is this what having a boner feels like?"
That's pretty good. I like that.
That's pretty funny. Yes.
Just imagine that on the back of the box. Or like
Did you? This is what having a boner feels like.
Like the critics are
IGN.
saying this.
Yeah. Kind of funny. This is what having a boner feels like. Okay, I think we've talked these to death. Any final thoughts, Dan, Jeremy?
Well, I think we should mention the Black Adam stuff real quick. I think they put a lot of effort in.
We forgot about that. Yeah.
Selling the audience on what to expect. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was there, just telling all what to expect. Go ahead.
The best. I just think of the best part of that whole panel was when they're like, he's like, "Well, who would I want to team up with? Wonder Woman." And he's like, "I know what you're thinking. Okay, Rock, you just want to hang out." It's like I thought that was so funny.
He's
Every
just super
time
charismatic.
he might be the most charismatic human being on
And
planet
he just
Earth.
always is dialed in. Whatever he's talking about, he's so passionate about.
Him and Gal Gadot actually,
Yeah.
both of them are just like superhuman in their ability
No,
to
but it's
just
true. You can tell that he's like
Yeah.
he's really passionate about the project. I
And,
think that's
and he
genuine.
explains here, he's been talking about it for a long time, but that
Yeah.
this character's been with him over 10 years with a creative
crazy
mind,
how
just
long.
trying to figure out how to get this off the ground. And with this one panel here, kind of similar to The Flash, where they gave us a tease of what the costume would look like, how it lights up in some kind of weird concept art. They had a bunch of concept art here, showcasing
by Boss Logic,
right.
which is because like it's so circular. Like his Boss Logic's art, just like random artwork that he did on Instagram, came full circle.
Marvel picked him up too. I think he did a
Yeah.
couple Far From Home images that were on like DVD covers and
It's
stuff.
so cool.
But I think
he's just very talented.
yeah.
I guess it just tells us that like if you're talented enough,
Well, that's
you're
how it
gonna
works.
get-
I think
you know
there's
what I
even
mean?
another
Yeah.
like the concept artist from Marvel. I think also was like just a low level type.
right? Like the guy who like draws those
Like
concept arts that
realistic
like, and it
yeah.
looks like the people,
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
insane. I would love to
So
have
that's
some of that stuff
essentially
framed.
what The Rock
yeah.
was showing off here, but they
Yeah.
were kind
like
of
a motion
kind of
comment.
animated, right? And
Yeah.
the big takeaway here was showcasing some members of the JSA. So it was rumored for a long time that JSA would appear in this film. I think he even said that. But we are officially getting Hawkman. We're
yeah.
officially getting Dr. Fate.
Dr. Fate's a big one.
That's
And then those other characters that we definitely know about.
I said newcomers, but I think they've been.
I'm sure they're deep cut
Yeah.
characters. I don't know.
Adam
I don't know who
Smashers,
they're.
we get to see
Adam Smasher, I know.
Smasher's
Yeah.
old school.
Yeah.
actor who's gonna be
Cyclone was
portraying
new to
him.
me.
Yeah, I don't know who Cyclone is. She looks like another Enchantress.
Yeah.
To-
We
She's got wind
we got
powers.
the logo, the Black Adam logo, which is really cool looking.
Yeah. It's kind of not that inspired. It's like rock.
Yeah.
Themed,
Well, the
like-
A has the bolt coming down.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just really cool to see him talk passionately about it and how excited he is, and to see some visual concepts of it, especially the suit and whatnot.
It seems like Warner Brothers is saying, "Hey, people, pay attention.
Well, The Rock.
The Rock's going to be a
Fran-
big part of this franchise
Viagra,
going
right?
forward."
Like,
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
major win.
He's going to introduce the JSA into
Yeah.
the cinematic universe.
And then he's teasing that there's a new hierarchy, right? Watch out, Superman. Watch. They have big plans for The Rock.
Right.
Why wouldn't
Yeah.
you?
He mentioned Superman a couple times,
Yeah.
and specifically talking about their power levels and
Yes.
how they would
Well,
be, like, what eventually is
Shazam
gonna
would
be
kick
them facing
Superman's
off.
ass. Superman's weak to
and
magic.
back in the day, we covered a long time ago. They posted on Instagram a photo of them in some backyard, like sharing some whiskey or whatever, talking about
Yeah.
future business. This was
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
the Snyder Cut and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And they had also the same manager, which is The Rock's ex-wife. So, yeah, they were definitely working behind the scenes, and they both bought the XFL, which I also mentioned. Like The Rock and his ex-wife, they bought the XFL.
Isn't that insane? That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
To own a, that's a whole other thing. He's basically the character from Ballers, just in real life now. Yeah. So okay, there's one thing that I thought was particularly interesting about this panel. So they reference he says JSA,
Mhm.
but then they say Justice Society. They don't say of America, right?
Don't they?
They don't. They don't.
He
They
did.
I
They,
think
no,
he
no.
did.
They just say JSA,
Pretty sure
and then
it
they
said
say
American.
Justice Society. I go back and check. But then they also say a bunch of stuff like they stand for truth and justice. They don't say it for the American way.
He says
doesn't
the Black Adam way.
No, exactly. But they specifically call out the fact, like, or it's what's the phrase I'm looking for here? It's conspicuous in its absence that they didn't use that language, and then instead distinctly went with I follow the Black Adam way, but it doesn't really work if you don't say the American way first.
Yeah, well, it's like what is the A Adam then? The Justice Society of Adam? What are you talking about?
Yeah, like exactly. So that's what's kind of confusing for me, and it seems like this story is going to be set in like maybe a 70s or 60s era. Like he's going to come back from imprisonment into the 60s
yeah,
or something.
if it's the JSA, it should be like
Yeah.
late 50s, early 60s sort of
Yeah.
area.
So I think that's interesting because then the question becomes like, where was he during Shazam? If it's connected to Shazam at all,
It will.
unclear.
The
Yeah.
rumors a while ago was Black Adam will come out, Shazam 2 will come out, and then the third Shazam movie.
What a
will
cool!
address it.
That's like introducing Darth Vader in
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi, which is like would be
Well, based
pretty
on
cool.
Rock, that's an ace up your sleeve. Like he could be like the Magneto basically, right? Of the DC universe,
Sure.
essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
The Magneto.
well, I mean, not in terms of the Avengers movies,
Like
but
the-
just in terms of his ability to, like they're very similar. Like,
Well, like
Yeah.
they're like it's a person with like equal abilities to the good guy, but just goes at it from a different perspective. Is that what you're
and
kind
thinks
of
he's
getting at?
right and all that stuff.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hero of their own story, kind of thing. Can form its own team of some kind. Right. Is the idea that he's forming the JSA? Because that's what's confusing for me there too.
To me, it looks like they're going to be battling him at some point, but maybe they might have to work
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, based on the phrasing, it sounded like they had different methods, and so they're gonna butt heads.
Right.
Doctor Fate, man.
Dr. Fate
Cool.
is that's interesting because I feel like that's a really heady story.
Well, I mean, if
That's
you
just
talk,
never really-
you want to talk about
yeah.
changing the hierarchy of power levels. Doctor Fate changes everything.
Well, you literally like it's just pure magic, but it's more than magic. It's like it's very
And
confusing.
then even Hawkman,
Dr.
his
Fate's
whole
powers are always
origin
confusing
and
to
his
me.
legacy and it's just insane.
Yeah, let's get Hawk. The sooner you get Hawkman in, the sooner you can get Hawkgirl, in my opinion, who's a much more interesting character than Hawkman.
Well, I mean, they're the same.
They're the exact same.
No, they're not.
How?
No, they're not.
You're only saying that because of cartoon.
Yes,
Okay, that's
absolutely, absolutely. But also, how many if we're being honest, how many interpretations of Hawkman have you found to be particularly interesting?
Blackest Night.
Yeah. In the comics, he's pretty good.
I mean, he's-
They have the same story, right? So they're star-crossed lovers, and they meet in different lifetimes, and
Mhm.
by the time they meet, they eventually die. It's interesting in Blackest Night because they're aware of it, and then Hawkman comes back from there's a dead version of Hawkman coming
Right.
back, so it's a different dynamic on that same story. But ultimately, those characters are intrinsically tied together, so I don't think one's more interesting than the other. It's
Mhm.
just their stories about them together.
Yeah, he already admitted he's just talking
it's because the
about
cartoon, and the
Bible
Hawkgirl
stories.
in the cartoon is like, I think just a deeper character because I spent more time with her.
And just to kind of put this to bed, like, was there anything that you wish you saw in this event here? I mean, obviously we get a second day, but I don't think there's going to be any.
I don't know. If
major
there's
stuff
not going to be
tomorrow.
big stuff because they're like, oh, we split it into 2 days, but it's like you're not going
It's
to.
like Comic
you
Con
just-
where you have
yeah.
like the big Hall H stuff, and then you have
Yeah.
like the comic book panels.
Well, there's also like if you look at the schedule for DC Fandom, I still can't. I don't like saying it. If you
Come
look
on,
at the
dude.
schedule, I just don't.
Let's
I
go,
doesn't. I don't
man.
like how it feels on my tongue.
You're not the greatest with pronouncing words. So
I to begin with, exactly. Pronouncing.
pronouncing. Terrible
so
word to fuck up.
yeah.
That was great.
3 beers deep here.
They're yeah, he's pretty drunk right now. They have like multiple channels. This was the Hall of Heroes. Everything was in the Hall
Which
of
is
Heroes.
brilliant, by the way. Like to
Yeah, it is.
just own that name that Marvel's not going to be able to use now if
Right.
they have any sort of streaming like reveal or whatever.
Because it's a very generic name.
But
yeah,
no, I mean because Comic-Con, right? This is a replacement for Comic-Con.
right.
And Comic-Con, it is what? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to be?
Hall H.
Exactly.
Right. This is the same thing. This is the Hall of Heroes.
You could also call it Hall H
the
if you
Hall.
wanted to.
Yeah, the Hall H. Right.
But Hero sounds cooler than H.
Yeah, that's true, because it actually has meaning, whereas the H is, I think, doesn't actually have any meaning. This is the Hall of Heroes. They have Watchverse, Kidsverse, Uverse, Funverse, and Insiderverse. None of those sound very good, which is why it makes more sense that they went with Hall of Heroes. But this stuff is all set for September 12th.
The Watchverse stuff. Is
Everything that's not
okay.
Hall of Heroes is September 12th. But these are much more like that technical kind of panels that you don't always see. They're kind of like the smaller ones, that stuff that's not in Hall H, right? And I think that's interesting. Like some of the stuff in here, DC Inc. There's a bunch of it's just more the kind of the cultural side, I feel like, of the crowdsource side of Comic-Con. So I'll be interested in that. Again, I don't think any of that's going to be particularly like illuminating in terms of new stuff that's going to be announced, right? New Voices of Wonder Woman panel. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how much interesting stuff you're getting out of that. Superman, an enduring symbol of hope panel. You know, it'll be interesting, but I don't know how much.
I'm sure there's cool stuff in all of them,
right.
and that's kind of the point of like Comic-Con in general, is that you go to what you're interested in. You kind of curate your own experience.
Like this one, the expansion of DC's Watchmen universe panel. Right.
And that was the thing with this thing, right? Is that you can set your own schedule to what you want to tune into, and then in between, you don't have to be glued to your computer or your TV.
Right.
You do whatever you want. We decided to just kind of have it playing all day, and we were just really invested in those big moments. For me, I'm disappointed that there was like zero Green Lantern stuff at all, even though they've already talked about.
They didn't even talk about. They didn't. I don't even know if the name Green Lantern even was referenced today. Like, I don't think it was uttered from anyone's mouth.
Right. But I mean, all production definitely halted. A few months back there, so it'd be tough to come up with something.
Do we know is that Green Lantern movie still in development?
Well, that's the thing. I think this was the time to flesh that out. Talk about the Green Lantern Corps movie, talk about the HBO series, or talk about one or the other, or decide.
Is the HBO series still in development? Like, I don't even know if either of those things are
HBO
still.
Max is the future. So
right.
And Greg Berlanti is up there with Jim Lee and Hamada. So
now he is, which is crazy.
The story was that he's getting $100 million to make an HBO, Green Lantern series.
Yeah,
so I'm sure that's still in development. It's too early, I think, to divulge anything. But yeah, so I'm. But
like, if you were gonna reveal like little like hints or just like a little like, hey, we're working on this, or this is what we're thinking about,
because
like just have one Green Lantern panel, right?
Maybe it's tomorrow.
That's not tomorrow.
Because like even with the Flash and the Black Adam stuff, right? That's all conceptual stuff that they've created behind the scenes to sell the higher ups. This is what we're doing. So I'd imagine they had the same type of visual content for Green Lantern stuff that sold them on a series or a core movie. But there's also drama behind the scenes with Jeff Johns, who might be at the forefront of all that, with a investigation that's happening currently. With Warner Brothers over the Justice League reshoots.
It's like working conditions, right?
Yeah. Which the Ray Fisher, the actor of Cyborg, is showcasing what's happening on Twitter. He's kind of putting out certain tweets, not like a lawyer would you could say that or something like that, like very minimal type stuff. But he is mentioning names and like John Berg and all that stuff before Hamada and Jim Lee are kind of at the top. So that's an ongoing thing. So that may have affected certain reveals here because there were panels that were scheduled that mysteriously disappeared.
Right. Last
and
minute.
Jeff Johns was listed on the names, and he was not there. But
so was Keaton's name, but we didn't get anything from him either. So
we have to just wait and see. But yeah, it's a weird thing that's happening with that. For
well,
sure.
Jeremy, you'll be happy to know that on Kidsverse on September 12th, you'll be able to get access to DC Origami Green Lantern.
Perfect.
Oh, there you
That's
go.
actually sick.
There you go, buddy.
Constructs.
Origami. You love
constructs.
origami.
Oh, actually, no, that's very clever. It's like
Guys.
physical constructs that you make out of paper.
Exactly. And
Hopefully
then you
green
can, then you can use
paper.
action figures to play
Right.
with them and
That's great. You know what? Actually, you know what?
Fuck you
I'm tuning in.
guys.
I'm going to add this to my schedule.
my
There's a little
mind
button here.
went immediately to that, and you guys are like, "Oh, what the fuck is this?"
I honestly didn't even read the first part. I just searched for
As
Green
soon as you said
Lantern.
Green Lantern origami. I'm like, okay, what the fuck could they make that's origami? Oh, constructs.
Anyway, that'll be on the kids channel on September 12th. So we'll on September 13th actually. We'll come back. We'll watch some of that stuff that week, and then come back and report on it that week as well. So, but for this stuff, I think that's basically it. I can't think of anything. Can't think of anything else.
We covered all the major stories. I mean, things like even Black Adam, it was kind of an afterthought, but that's because there wasn't a lot to show. It was just like a thing. Like, remember Black Adam's coming.
But it was a
And
good pitch though.
It was. It really was.
It
And
felt like a sales pitch though, which I don't love as a.
I mean, that's kind of
That's what
all of this is, really.
This is basically
Yeah.
is to get you in tune with what's happening and get involved and pay attention.
Tell you what, I missed the Ask Harley Quinn panel because my PlayStation went to sleep at that exact moment, which is upsetting for me because I really liked that show. And I think it was right when there's like, are we going to do a third season? And I don't know what the answer to that was.
You'll never know.
I don't know. So I don't know. I think they will be. I think they know it's a huge hit. It was one of like when they did the trailer for DC Fandome, that animated series, like one of the first things you see on like the virtual TVs in the Hall of Heroes. So expect more of that. I know Dan's excited about that.
Oh yeah, can't wait. I think
Young Justice, maybe more
Young Justice I would have been really excited for. And at one point there was like a little like title sequence where it's like Young Justice. I was like, and then it was a question. It was like a throwaway question. So.
I think some of the DC layoffs are affecting Young Justice, or did affect it. So we don't. This whole thing. Yeah. We don't know how much of this was changed last minute after that. I mean, we didn't really talk about it, but it definitely looms over this whole thing, and it's a big question mark over what was supposed to be here or what
but
was.
At the end of the day, we know that Jim Lee is still heavily involved.
Absolutely.
And
The chief creator.
He's on like every panel in this
and
thing.
he's a comic book creator, first and foremost. So
Right.
Yep.
I doubt this man is going to let comics die away or
Yeah.
No,
it's in
yeah.
good hands. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, if every time there's a shakeup at the executive level at DC, I think we come out saying, "Well, this is maybe good news," and then it's not.
You gotta watch
good
that
news.
multiverse panel though, if you
Right.
can, do a rewatch of that, because it's pretty sweet seeing those guys
Mhm.
geek out and about the future and what's possible.
Did it feel like them by like a whiteboard, like mapping out like
Well,
multiverse?
I think it was Tiffany Smith. I think was the moderator of that one, and she mentioned that. Like, do you guys have like a whiteboard
map?
with
Yeah.
strings and things
Right.
like that? And then Jim Lee mentions True Detective,
Right.
of how it's like that or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, that's not how it is. But I think they do have a big whiteboard though, for sure.
Right.
Well, they have a database somewhere, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Just a big flowchart thing that they're building out. They're just in Visio, building out DC character flowcharts. That's the future I want. That's the Visio. Instead of making workflows about lead triage, I want to make workflows about characters in the DC universe. That's a dream come true for me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, on that note, you can follow us on Twitter at Tower Babblecast, Facebook.com/Tower Babblecast, Patreon.com/Tower Babblecast. We are doing The Prestige this month. I'm very excited. I've never seen this movie.
Idiot.
I've never seen this movie. I'm really excited about it, and I can't wait to talk about it. I mean, it's a Nolan movie. It's going to be good.
Well, you
I
can't
think
wait
I
to
might have
see
been partially spoiled by someone talking about a different movie and then them saying, "Oh, they prestiged it," and I was like, I wish I hadn't heard that. But I'm not going to tell what it is because I don't want to see from your reactions whether
Well,
or
you can
not
tell us after
that's
we
as
stop
true.
recording.
Maybe, but I don't want to know at all.
Well, maybe we won't say anything. You're not good at reading people anyways.
Just don't ask.
I'm going to ask him right now.
Right. Okay. We'll be back, obviously, again, this month with the Prestige exclusive to Patreon, but we'll be back with more just general movie and television news. You can also look forward to, actually you can find now, This feed will have a Star Wars Oscars episode out in the next week or so. I delayed it on this one because of the DC stuff, but it is out on the small screen Star Wars feed, so you can find it there today. Okay, we will be back soon with more. We'll talk to you then.